A pitch-black crater appeared on the ground, and the pungent smell of blood gradually spread in all directions. What? Seeing this scene, everyone was stunned. They did not expect that the triangular-eyed man would die just like that. He was killed by a palm strike. It was too unbelievable. One had to know that in their eyes, a first-rank venerable was a godlike existence that could not be resisted. However, such a person had been killed so easily. Who exactly did it? So powerful. The Black Dragon cult warriors were both shocked and furious as they looked at the sky. Who is it? Get out here. How dare you attack a member of the Black Dragon cult? You're dead meat. An old man roared crazily. He was also a member of the Black Dragon cult, and his strength was on par with the triangular-eyed man. However, at this moment he was extremely terrified because he did not see who it was. However, in the next moment, everyone was shocked because a figure quickly descended from the sky. It was a young man with a handsome face. His black hair fluttered in the wind, and his entire body emitted a powerful aura. His gaze was like a sword light, causing everyone to tremble. It's you. You were the one who attacked just now. The old man from the Black Dragon cult gritted his teeth and asked. Although he was also afraid of the other party's strength, he could not embarrass the Black Dragon cult in front of so many people. Men attack. Kill him. Immediately, countless warriors rushed into the sky. Many of them were first-rank venerables, and there were also countless fifth-rank spirit-detecting realm cultivators. There were hundreds of them densely packed together. There were so many experts in the square. One could imagine that the Black Dragon cult's strength was above the entire Tiannan region. However, these people were nothing in Lin Xian's eyes. Lin Xian stood in the air and did not attack at all. He only snorted coldly. However, this voice contained an endless murderous aura and pressure. Immediately, the hundreds of cultivators who flew over from all directions exploded and died. Bang 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 bang. A series of explosions sounded. One by one, the warriors exploded into a bloody mist. The pungent smell of blood instantly filled the square. What? They're dead. The entire square was dumbfounded. There was not a single sound. What kind of method was that? Just a voice alone caused hundreds of warriors to explode and die. There was no resistance at all? One had to know that there were many venerables. This method was too heaven-defying. It was simply a divine skill. The black-robed elder's scalp went numb. He screamed as if he had gone crazy. Who are you? Who are you? He was scared. He was really scared. This was because even their hall master did not have such a method. However, the other party, a young man who was only about 20 years old, had such a heaven-defying method. He was wearing a luxurious robe. He did not dare to resist at all. And had flames gathered to form a fire dragon. Lin Xian did not say anything. Beside the young man with flames stood an old man. A sword chi surged out. He was expressionless, and pierced through the elder like lightning. His eyes were dark. He was like a goshawk, and emitted an extremely dangerous aura. Was pierced. At this moment, he fell to the ground the old man slowly retracted his hand. He was filled with doubts, and the flames on his body quickly disappeared. He did not know who this mysterious young man in front of him was. It seemed that the previous attack was from this old man in black. The surviving disciples of the Black Dragon cult were terrified, and saw that no one was alive. Many of them even went crazy. He did not look angry. In the face of such combat strength, they could not resist at all. To be able to destroy a branch of the Nether Hall in such a short time, Lin Xian did not plan to let them go at all. These people were too evil. You should be a young genius. He did not know how many people they had killed. I don't have your information. He stretched out his 5 fingers and shot out hundreds of sword rays. Each ray turned into a long rainbow and accurately killed the remaining warriors of the Black Dragon cult. In an instant, hundreds of people were cut in half, and their corpses fell to the ground. Soon, the martial artists who rushed over from the other floors were all killed by Lin Xian. Only the Nether Hall elders were left in the hall. Blood gathered into a small river and flowed under everyone's feet. The pungent smell of blood made these damned elders have the urge to die. Lin Xian turned around again and stared at those people. Immediately, the elders in the hall trembled and screamed in fear. What are you trying to do? I'm telling you, don't mess around. We're from the Nether Hall. No, don't kill me. We'll tell you whatever you want to know. Please let us go. Many people roared, but even more people begged for mercy. A few elders even knelt on the ground and kept kowtowing to Lin Xian. They wanted to exchange for their lives. Lin Xian's expression was cold and even filled with disdain. These people seemed to be powerful and had reached the venerable realm. But deep down, They were even inferior to those in the spirit-detecting realm. They lacked sharpness, bravery, and bloodshed. This was because they did not cultivate their strength at all. They had only reached the venerable realm with the help of external forces. Such people could not unleash the strength that a venerable should have. Once they encountered true danger, they would not dare to risk their lives. Pitiful ants, you're insulting the venerable realm. Lin Xian stretched out his hand. The sea of blood behind him immediately turned into countless blood swords and stabbed forward. Don't kill me. Save me. Up ahead, the elders of the Black Dragon cult in the Great Hall screamed and quickly fled. However, they could not escape at all. The blood swords in the sky were like blood bolts of lightning. They instantly pierced through those elders and nailed them to death in the air. In the blink of an eye, everyone from the Nether Hall in the pavilion was killed. Lin Xian also recalled the sea of blood. The surrounding blood was all absorbed by him and turned into the power of the sea of blood. It strengthened his blood sword inheritance
Chapter
1335. The blood sword
You look so
inheritance
young.
was very strange.
You should be a young
The more he
genius.
killed,
But I
the
don't have
stronger
any
he
information
became.
about you.
However, Lin Xian
curious.
was not willing
Who
to
are you?
use it normally.
Asked the flaming
He would
youth.
only activate
You
the
don't
blood
need to know
clan's
who I
slaughter
am.
inheritance.
Lin Xian's
when he met
expression
someone
was
who
cold,
deserved to
and
die,
his voice was
he
cold.
spread out his soul
The young
power
man who was
and
bathed in
quickly
flames
scanned the
didn't get
entire
angry.
32nd floor of
Instead,
the
he stared at
pavilion.
Lin Xian
He
with
did
a
not
smile.
find anyone who had
You have a
escaped.
personality.
Then he turned
I like
around
it.
and
None
walked
of the
out.
warriors
You're definitely
in the
corpses
corpses
in the
frightened.
corridor
You
were
should be
piled up
instead.
like a
They
mountain
clenched
in
their
the venerable
fists
realm
and
and looked
How
extremely
about it?
excited.
Frowned
Are you
slightly.
interested in
They
joining
wanted
my
to blast
divine
the way
as if
out.
they were looking
How
at
about
being
it?
my
A
subordinate?
powerful
Their eyes were
force
filled
don't
with
worry.
endless
I
admiration
want
and
mistreatment.
gratitude.
Instantly
As long
blasted
as you
the
follow
followers
in the
savior.
corridor,
I promised
the dead
not
lost
only
the dragon
that,
for the
but
rest
the
of your
corpses
life.
were
And
quickly
deserved
burned
and
and
disappeared
killed,
as
said
if
the
many of
flaming
them
youth.
could not
Follow
control their
you? None
anger.
of this
Lin
was
Xian
caused by
took out
Lin
their
Xian.
swords and
It was
slashed
the
for
first
the
time
corpses
he
on
had
the
heard
ground.
such words.
To
More
look
than
ahead,
one
no one
person
had
did
ever
that.
dared to say
One
such
could
words
imagine
to
how
him.
many
Appeared in front of
flaming
Black
youth
Dragon
did not
said,
know
"No,
what
Lin
Lin Xian was
Xian
young
man."
country.
He continued
And even the
speaking
entire
arrogantly.
Tianan region.
Don't worry.
Meanwhile,
You
in
won't
the
be at a
void
disadvantage if you
who was
follow
hanging
me.
by countless
Although
chains,
you're at the
was
seventh
completely
sky of the
stunned.
venerable
He
realm,
had thought that
and
today
are
was his
considered a
doomsday,
genius,
and
and did
stronger.
not plan to live
I,
anymore.
Fang Yan,
He would
am the
rather
third
die
leader
than
of
live
the
a divine
hellish
pill
life.
hall.
However,
Once I break the
what
ice
he
in the
didn't
sword
expect
pool
was
mansion
that
at the moment
he'll have
before
made
his
a great
death,
contribution,
a shocking change
and will
occurred.
soon become the
A
second
handsome
leader.
young man with fluttering
Following
black
me
hair
is definitely
killed
the
the
wisest
triangular-eyed
choice.
man with
Our
one
divine
punch.
pill hall is
He
not
also
like the
killed
Nether
hundreds
Hall,
of Black
or the
Dragon
number
sect
one
disciples
hall.
in an instant.
Fang Yan was very
It was like a
confident.
legend to him.
He was indeed
However,
confident
when he
because
saw
the
the young
divine
man's
pill hall
face, he was
ranked
even more
first
shocked.
in the Black Dragon
He was
Church,
completely stunned.
while the Nether Hall
Although
was
almost
ranked
5
second
years
from
had
the
passed,
bottom, and the
although
young
they were
man had
both
grown
halls,
up,
the gap
he could
between
still
them was
vaguely
huge.
see the young man's
Fang
face.
Yan was young.
Lin Xian
Not
nearly
only
had
had
his
his
cultivation
DK
reached
trembled
the
with
seventh sky of the
excitement.
venerable
Two
realm.
streams of
But his
tears flowed
alchemy
from his
skills
old
were
eyes.
also impressive.
He did not expect
Not only
that the
that,
godlike person
but he was also the
who had
third
descended
leader
on
of
the
the
divine
square.
pill
To
hall.
save him was
His
Lin
status
Xian.
was as high as
Yesterday,
Yin.
he was still
had
lamenting
countless
how he
geniuses
missed Lin
working for
Xian.
him.
He did not
Therefore,
expect
in
Lin
his
Xian
opinion,
to really appear
as
today.
long as he revealed
Was he
his
really
identity,
sent by the heavens
all
to
the
save the
geniuses in the
entire
world would
Tianshan
submit
country?
to him.
Lin
The
Xian
young man
looked
in
at the
front
old
of him was
figure
no
in the
exception,
sky
and felt
However,
extremely
Lin Xian
emotional.
only laughed.
A few
And
years
it was
ago,
a disdainful
he had treated
sneer.
the old man's
Seeing
leg.
Lin Xian's
Not only
disdainful
that,
smile,
but he was
the
also
flaming
very
youth opposite
familiar
him
with
laughed.
the Elixir King
It seems
Square.
that you don't believe
This was
me,
where he had won
but it
first
doesn't
place
matter.
in the Elixir
I've
King
met many
tournament
geniuses
and
before,
obtained the
and
White
none of
Dragon
them believed
Ascension
what I
elixir.
said.
It was
But
because
in the
of
end,
that elixir
they still
that he
became
obtained
my
the Great
subordinates.
Dragon Sword Soul.
You are no
It could be
exception.
said that
The
this was a
flaming
very
youth seemed
important
to have
turning
boundless
point for him.
confidence.
His gaze
He'll capture
condensed
you
into
first,
2
and
rays
then
of
bring you
sword
back
light
for
that shot
training.
into the sky.
Don't worry,
Instantly
you will
shattering
recognize
my
me
chains.
as your master in
Following
less than
this,
3 days.
Lin Xian
He
waved
turned
his
his
hand
hand
and
slightly
DK landed
and said
beside
to the
him.
black-clothed
Lin
old man
Xian,
beside
it's really
him.
you.
Catch
DK
him.
trembled with
Yes,
excitement
Branch Master.
as he watched the
The
miraculous
black-robed old
scene
man nodded
unfold before
coldly.
him.
Then, like
It's
a ghost,
me.
he rushed
Lin
forward
Xian
quickly.
nodded. He
and
didn't
took
say
out a
much,
pill from his
but his
storage
attacks
ring.
were swift
Don't
and
say
fierce.
anything. The
Take
claw
this
was like
pill.
a goshawk.
After
It was
receiving
very
the pill,
sturdy,
DK
and was
was even
surrounded
more
by
shocked.
countless red flames.
Just from the fragrance
with
alone,
a blazing aura,
he knew that this
it quickly
was
tore
definitely
through
a
the
divine
void and
medicine.
grabbed at Lin Xian.
Perhaps even the
Lin
divine
Xian
pill
stood
hall,
in place without
one of
moving.
the 8 great
When
halls
the
of
other
the Black
party
Dragon
attacked,
cult.
his eyes
Would
suddenly
not be able
became
to
sharp.
refine such a pill.
Not only that,
However,
but
looking at
countless
Lin
azure
Xian's
auras
appearance,
bloomed around
he
him,
seemed very casual
as if they were
and
going
normal.
to freeze the
Could
entire
it be
space.
that he had so many
A blue
precious
ice
medicinal
fist formed
pills
in
front
his
of him,
hands,
and quickly
DK was
blasted
very
forward?
confused.
Boom!
But he still
the
swallowed
fist hit
it quickly.
the black-robed old
In the
man's
next
palm
moment,
hard.
his
and
entire
immediately
body
sent
began
him
to
flying.
tremble,
because he could clearly
The
feel
black-robed old
that all
man's
the injuries
pupils
on his body had healed.
He exploded
not
with
only
all
his
that,
strength,
but his
and
damaged
quickly
body
retreated.
had also
When he
instantly
landed,
recovered to its
half of
peak.
his body was
What
already
kind of pill is
frozen by
this?
ice.
It's too miraculous.
Ice spiritual power.
Looking at
You
the
are an
excited
ice martial
DK,
artist. Lin
the
Xian sighed
black-robed old
inside.
man's face
This
was
was
gloomy.
just an ordinary
He found
tier
that the
7
flames in
medicinal
his body
pill.
were suppressed.
But in these people's
This
eyes,
wasn't good news
it was
for
a
him,
divine medicine.
because ice and fire
it seemed
were
that they really
elements that
hadn't had a
restrained
good
each
time
other.
these past few
However,
years.
who could
Although
restrain
DK
who
was
depended on the
excited,
cultivation
he didn't
of both
forget about
parties.
the important matter at hand.
Now it seemed
He
that the
hastily
other
grabbed
party
Lin
was
Xian and
obviously
said,
stronger than
Lin
him.
Xian,
But how could
hurry
this
and
be?
save the heavenly
The
mountain
black-robed
empire.
old man cursed in
Originally,
disbelief.
he had already
The other
despaired,
party was only a
feeling that
20-year-old
there was no
young
hope
man.
for him
How
and
could his
empire.
cultivation be
But
higher
now
than
Lin
his?
Xian's appearance
This scene
gave him
made the
hope
flaming
once
youth
more.
stop smiling.
Where is the main
Ice
force
martial
of your
soul, I
heavenly
see.
mountain empire
No
locked
wonder
up?
you were so
Asked Lin
confident and
Xian.
refused to submit to
Since
me.
he's already
It
here,
turns out to
he
be
will
the ice
naturally
martial
help
soul,
these people,
which is the opposite
However,
of the
his
flame
time was
martial
limited,
soul.
and he couldn't
However,
save
I
all the
love to
heavenly
subdue
mountain
people like
empire's
you.
martial
The
artists.
flaming youth smiled
So he had his
evilly
own
again.
idea, but
That
soon
was
his
to
smile
save the
froze,
heavenly mountain
because
empire's
the black-robed
martial
old man
artists,
behind him screamed,
and then have them save
What?
themselves.
What's going on?
Seeing Lin Xian
The
agree,
flaming youth
DK
suddenly
was also
turned around.
excited. Then
He
his
quickly
pupils
said,
constricted
"They're all
and he
in
was
Pill
stunned.
Valley."
It
Yes,
turned out that the
heavenly
black-robed
mountain
old man
empire's
behind him
medicinal
was suddenly
pills were
pierced by
flourishing.
countless icicles.
So those alchemy
Not only
grandmasters
that,
were
the
the
icicles
strongest
were
martial
stained with
artists
blood.
in the city.
They froze the
As for those
black-robed
people,
old man's
they
body
were currently
and
locked up
formed
in
a human-shaped
human-shaped
ice sculpture
and had to refine
Dead.
medicinal pills
How could this
for
be?
the black dragon
The
cult
flaming
to
youth
use.
couldn't believe it.
All right, then let's
The
go
old
to Pill
man he
Valley.
brought along was
Point
very
me in the right
powerful.
direction.
His cultivation
After
was
saying
at the
that,
7th rank
Lin
honorable
Xian's
realm.
body glowed with
Also,
a
he was a
dazzling light
fire-type
that
martial
enveloped
artist like
Quebec.
him.
Even
Then,
if the
he
black-robed
turned
old
into a
man
ray
was
of
Lin
sword
Xian,
radiance. He
and
couldn't have
charged
been
into
killed
the distance.
instantly. Could
As
it be
for
that the
heavenly
other
mountain
party's ice
empire's
power
martial
was so
artists in the
terrifying?
plaza?
The
They
flaming
were
youth couldn't
constantly
figure it out.
kowtowing in the
He
direction
could only
Lin
turn
Xian had
around and
left.
stare at Lin
Old
Xian.
man DK was
The
shocked.
flames on his body
Lin
flickered.
Xian's speed was too
What
fast.
method did you use
He
to
had
kill
never
him?
seen anything
Lin
like
Xian
this
sneered
before.
disdainfully.
If it wasn't for
You
the
didn't
light
even see how I
protecting Lin
attacked.
Xian,
You want
Lin
to subdue
Xian's
me with
speed
such
would have been
strength?
enough to tear his
Lin
body
Xian's
apart.
words made the
He
flaming
didn't dare
youth's
to
face
imagine
turn
just
ugly.
what realm Lin
However,
Xian
he
had
then
reached.
snorted coldly.
He was definitely at
Don't
the
be so
venerable
smug.
realm.
The
As for what
black-robed
heaven
old man
stage
must
he was
have been
at,
careless.
he didn't know.
Plus,
The
you
two of
sneaked
them
and attacked.
quickly arrived near
That's why
Pill
you
Valley.
succeeded.
DK
Brat,
pointed
you've
to a
got
mountain
guts.
valley
You
in front
actually
of them.
dared to kill my
That is
people.
Pill Valley.
Today,
All of the
he'll make
heavenly
you wish you
mountain
were dead.
empire's medicinal pills
Not only
are
that,
imprisoned there.
He'll capture
However,
you and
the black
refine you
dragon
into my
cult
most
is
loyal
heavily
servant.
guarding it.
The
There's
flaming
no way
youth
to
roared.
charge in.
He waved his
There are
hand
quite a
and
few
formed a red
venerables
palm.
among them.
Then he
There are
slammed
even
it in
third
front of
heaven
him.
stage venerables.
Everywhere it passed,
Before
the
DK
air
could
melted
finish
and
speaking,
space distorted.
he saw Lin Xian
Everything
walk
around
over.
it burned rapidly.
Young Master Lin, be
Lin
careful.
Xian sneered
There are
disdainfully.
third heaven stage
Playing with
venerables
fire
ahead.
in front of me,
Warned D.
you're
Quebec.
courting death.
In his view,
Then he looked
third
around.
heaven stage
Suddenly,
venerables were already
a ball
in
of credible
flames
existences
flew out and landed on
far
the flaming
surpassing
palm.
the triangular
In the
eyed
next
man
moment,
from before.
the flaming
So he
palm
had to
made
be
a sizzling
careful.
sound.
He had
and
even thought of a
disappeared
plan to
quickly like
sneak
ice
in.
melting.
But now it seemed
What?
Lin
It
Xian
melted.
wasn't planning on being
Flames?
careful at all.
How can you have
He was
flames?
like a war god,
Seeing
rapidly
this,
walking
the flaming
through the
youth's
air.
face finally
His
changed.
terrifying voice
He
shook
couldn't
the
understand
surroundings
how
like
a person
thunder.
could have both
As
the ice
expected,
power
Lin
and the
Xian's
fire power at
actions
the
drew
same
the
time.
attention of the black
Looking
dragon
at the
cult's
flaming
people
youth's
near
shocked
Pill
expression,
Valley. Two
Lin
small
Xian
squads
sneered
quickly flew
disdainfully.
over. These
Surprised,
two squads each
can't
had 30
believe it?
people.
I really
The
don't
captains were
understand.
first heaven
How
stage
can a
venerables.
person like you be so
And there were
arrogant?
quite a few
Do you
half-step
really think
venerables
that you're
and peak
invincible
spirit
by
detecting
relying on
experts?
external forces
Who are you?
to raise your
How dare you
cultivation?
cause trouble here? Hurry up and
Let me
kneel,
tell you,
or you'll
a
die
person
without
like
a corpse.
you isn't even an ant
Shouted
in
the
my
two
eyes.
first heaven stage
Because
venerables.
you don't know how vast
However,
the world
Lin
is.
Xian's
I
expression
reckon
was
that
ice
with your
cold.
character and
He
methods,
raised his hands and
you won't
clenched
even
them.
survive a
Those
day
two
in the
first
Tianwu
heaven stage
continent.
venerables were involuntarily sucked toward him. Chapter
What?
1336.
The distant black dragon
This time,
cult's disciples
the flaming
were
youth
shocked.
was shocked,
The
and he
he
two first
screamed.
heaven stage
He did not
venerables were
expect
horrified.
that Suemo was
They
from
did
the
their
Tianwu
best to struggle,
continent.
but
No
it was
wonder he was
useless.
so powerful.
In the next moment,
no wonder he could
they were
kill
sucked
so
into
many
Lin
people in
Xian's
an
hands.
instant.
As
No
for
wonder
Lin
he
Xian,
could possess
he
both the
tightened his
ice
grip
and
around
fire
their necks.
attributes.
Crack.
Suemo was a genius martial artist from the Tianwu continent. No, I have to send this news back. Kid, you surprised me. I did not expect you to be from the Tianwu continent. But you are too arrogant. Do you really think you can kill me? Just you wait. When you send the news back, the Black Dragon sect will send real experts to kill you. After saying that, the flaming youth turned to leave. You want to leave? Do you think that is possible? Lin Xian's body flashed and he appeared in front of the flaming youth, blocking his way. You are courting death. How dare you look down on me? The flaming youth was furious. The reason why he did not attack was because Suemo was too mysterious and possessed both the ice and fire attributes. However, this did not mean that he could tolerate being looked down on. He was the third branch leader of the Divine Pill Hall, and a genius of the Tiannan region. Kid, so what if you are from the Tianwu continent? I will let you know how powerful I am. The flaming youth's voice was ferocious. In the next moment, a ball of orange flames appeared in his palm. It was like a cloud floating in his palm. Fire cloud earth fire. Kid, go to hell. When the cloud-like red flames appeared, they emitted a blazing heat. The aura was twice as strong as the previous flames. I have just obtained the fire cloud earth fire, and did not want to use it. I did not expect to meet you. Kid, you should be proud to die under my fire cloud earth fire. The flaming youth's voice was cold, and there was a trace of madness in his eyes. After that, the cloud-like flames quickly merged with his right palm, and his aura suddenly increased by 3 times. Ha 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 ha. So what if you are from the Tianwu continent? I have merged with the fire cloud earth fire. Even an 8th level honored martial artist is no match for me. Go to hell. Fire cloud palm. The flaming youth shouted angrily, and struck out with his palm. A red palm left countless afterimages in the air, and struck towards Lin Xian. This was the flaming youth's trump card, and his greatest trump card. Lin Xian shook his head in disdain. Too weak. The next moment, he also slowly raised his palm, and countless black flames appeared in his palm. Then he gently pressed forward. Boom! The void collapsed, and a pitch-black black hole appeared. It was as if a giant abyss beast was going to swallow everything around it. In the next moment, something strange happened. Everything around him began to burn rapidly and silently, disappearing into thin air. There was not even a sound. However, this silent burning was too terrifying. Nothing could stop it. The flaming youth revealed a look of horror once again. Take their storage rings, because he found that the fire said to the people behind him. He had shot out, DK was completely without a trace in an instant. Although he had seen Lin Xian's power before, is terrifying. He was still shocked to see it again. Only when Lin Xian reminded him black flames did he come back to him in an instant. He quickly took the 2 venerable storage rings. His palm quickly turned into ashes, the black dragon cult disciples invisible to the naked eye. Although they didn't know who Lin Xian was, but the entire body of the flaming youth when they saw how easily he killed their captains. In an instant, they knew that this was an expert. In the end, so they quickly retreated to report it. Lin Xian was expressionless. In the next moment, as if he had done something insignificant, flew out of Lin Xian's hands. He waved his hand and recalled the black flames of cultivators. Then he turned around and left. Bloody mist exploded. The pavilion was still the same, and those cultivators were all cut to pieces. But there was no one inside. Only their storage rings remained floating in the black air. Dragon sex during this entire process, Lin Xian didn't stop at all. By Lin Xian. He continued to walk through the air. No one escaped. The 2 groups were completely wiped out. DK, who was behind Lin Xian, was extremely excited. The sword pool mansion had become dead silent and searched through the storage rings in the air. Did not expect their forces to be hiding himself at all. So it didn't take long for another black dragon cult martial now that there was no trouble to discover him. He was not the only one. People's fates were the same as before. The dark red dragon, they were killed by Lin Xian with a single blow. And Luo Bingshan had all come. The enemy is too strong. Looked at the ice mountain in front of them with the other black dragon cult disciples all fled. Set up a formation. As for Lin Xian, I don't want to be disturbed when it flew out of his eyes. Lin Xian said, black sea of flames. That's easy. The dark red divine dragon casually set up a set of array formation. Shock, absolute enveloping the entire sword pool mansion. Over 100 black dragon cult disciples were killed. No one outside would notice anything unusual. They also noticed the battle stretched out his palm and let out the black flames dance quickly. What's going on? Then he pressed forward. Someone is attacking the black dragon cult. When his palm touched the ice in front of him, they killed hundreds of black dragon cult disciples as if it could not withstand it. Is it someone from the martial alliance? Power of ice. The alchemists below were shocked. He realized that the power of Head and the other elders, black flames. They were also shocked. It was unbelievable. Because they saw DK One had to know that his black flames were no ordinary flames. Shouted the Pill Alliance's They came from the body of the heavenly Netherbird. DK, that old bastard, wasn't be extremely terrifying. How is he still alive? However, the ice in front of him also had mixed feelings. It was amazing. However, no wonder when they saw old mansion was flying over with a young man after such a long time. They were all excited. It was because no one could break through the power of ice. That's great. Even if Lin Xian did not make a move, extremely excited, the Nether Hall and the surrounding and the flaming youth would not be able to break through the ice. The president of the Pill Alliance and the others looked at Lin Xian. The black flames around his body burned. Because they clearly saw that the young man in front of them flame had killed all the warriors into the black dragon cult. Finally, the ice mountain in front of him melted. The young man who won the Pill King tournament back then, if he wanted to dissolve the entire sword pool mansion, It would
Hearing
take at
this,
least 1 or 2
everyone was
months.
shocked and
No,
stood
it's
rooted
too
to the
slow.
ground.
Lin
Because
Xian
just
retracted his
yesterday,
palm
they
and
were
shook
still
his head.
talking about that
Although
young
he could
man,
hide it for a while,
and many people
he
were
could
still
not hide it
sighing.
forever.
However,
He believed
he
that
had
it would
not
not take
expected
long
that
for
the
the
other
Black
party
Dragon
would appear
cult
to
today.
react.
Furthermore,
At that time,
he had appeared in such a
definitely
powerful
send a
manner
large number of
with the raise of
experts.
his hand.
Ordinary
He had killed
supremacies
several
would be easy
hundred
to
Black
deal
Dragon
with.
cult
But if a
cultivators,
half-step king
this method
or the
was
Black
simply
Dragon
too
cult's
heaven
leader
defying.
personally came,
Lin Xian,
things
it's
would
really
be troublesome.
Lin Xian.
He
Oh
did
my
not
God,
want to
am I
fight
dreaming?
against the Black
Young
Dragon
Master
cult's
Lin,
leader.
are you from the
Therefore,
Martial
he
Alliance?
had to think of another
Everyone
way to
was
save the
excited.
Sword Pool Mansion.
However, Lin Xian
Why don't
shook
we
his
do
head
it together?
slightly. I'll help
I'm
you
not
break
from the
through
Martial
it.
Alliance,
Morong
but I
Qingqing
came
said
back
from
this
the
time to
side.
take care of the
Luo
Black
Bingshan
Dragon cult.
also gripped her
Hearing
treasured
Lin
blade
Xian's
tightly.
words,
As
as
long
long
as
as
Lin
Lin
Xian
Xian gave the
at
order,
that moment,
she
a
would
cold
immediately
snort
make
came
a
from
move.
behind.
The dark red
Take care of
dragon
the Black
touched his
Dragon
chin
cult
and
How
carefully
arrogant.
observed the ice
Young
mountain
man,
in front of
you're
him.
the one who
He
killed my
even used a
subordinates.
secret technique.
How dare you
Why
kill
does
the
this
people
thing
of the
sound
Black
so
Dragon
familiar?
cult? Where have
I
I heard
advise
of
you
it?
to kneel down and
The dark
accept
red
your
dragon
death.
was suspicious.
Otherwise, it'll make you
Then he
regret it.
exclaimed, "What?"
A cruel voice
Could it
was
be
heard,
that kind of thing?
and the expressions of everyone in the valley changed.
But how was this possible?
This was because they were
Why would that
extremely
thing appear
familiar
here?
with the voice.
Even the Sky
It was
Marshal
the Honorable
Continent
Master
did not have
who was
the
watching over them.
qualifications to appear
The
here.
Honorable Master was a deacon of the Ravengale Hall. His cultivation was at the third heaven of the Honorable Master, and he could be
The
said
dark
to
red
be
dragon
extremely
watched
powerful.
from the side,
At
and
that
nodded
moment,
continuously.
seeing the Honorable
It had
Master
to be said
rushing
that Lin
over
Xian's
aggressively
physique
was really
all
too
the
powerful.
alchemists trembled.
It even surpassed
Lin
some
Xian
half-step
also turned
kings.
around and
It
coldly
was very
raised his
clear
head.
about the power
As
of the
expected,
Neptune hilt.
there was a
No
large
one
man
under
in
the
the
king
sky
level
behind
dared
him.
to touch it.
His muscles
Even
bulged,
if they did,
and his
they
aura
would
was
carefully
extremely
absorb it.
powerful.
How
He
could
was
they
at
be
the
like
third
Lin
heaven
Xian,
of the honorable
madly
realm.
swallowing without
Behind him
thinking
stood
about the
8 other martial
consequences?
artists,
Lin Xian's
all of whom
physique
were
was
at the
indeed
second
powerful.
sky of the honorable
Apart
realm.
from the furious dragon
It was no wonder these
incantation,
alchemists were
he
so
also
afraid.
frequently consumed
With this person's
old-time
power
tea and
killing
various
all
other
the alchemists
treasures
here would be
it
as
could be
easy
said
as
that his
flipping a
life
hand.
force had reached a
However,
terrifying level.
now that Lin
Don't
Xian
worry,
had
don't
arrived,
worry. The
this
situation
kid will
had
definitely
changed.
not seek
Lin
his own
Xian
death.
looked at the sky and
The dark
said
red
coldly,
dragon said to
all of
Morong
you,
Qingqing
kneel by
and
the
Luo
side and wait
Bingshan.
for my orders. What? The Pill Valley's alchemists
Chapter
were all
1338.
dumbfounded. They
While
didn't
Lin
dare
Xian
to
was
imagine that
absorbing
a
the
youth
sea
would
god's
dare to
ice,
say such
the
words
Black
to a
Dragon
third
sect
heaven
had
honorable.
also discovered
Was he not
something
afraid of
strange.
death? The
It had to be
headquarters of the
known that
Nether
this
Hall
was a third
was
heaven
located in a
honorable.
mountain
He
range
wasn't one of
in
those
the cloud
first heaven
region of the
honorables
Xia
come
country.
before.
At
Even
this
the
moment,
Pill Alliance's
a
head
disciple of the
and
Nether
the other
Hall was
seniors
flying towards
expressions
the headquarters
changed.
in a hurry.
There were even quite
He
a
looked
few
extremely
people who
flustered,
hastily sent messages
reporting
to Lin
something
Xian
bad
to
has
flee.
happened.
Of those
There has
people,
been no
only
news from this
DK's
expression
mansion
didn't
for a
change.
day.
He was already
Soon,
numb. The news
as
reached
for the
the
Black
headquarters
Dragon
of the
cult's
Nether Hall.
venerables,
No
they
news for
began
a
to
day.
crazily
Are
laugh
you
upon
sure?
hearing Lin
The
Xian's
headquarters
words.
of the Nether
What
Hall
did he
hurriedly
say?
checked.
You want us to
and
kneel
found
to
that
the
there had
side.
been no news
Wait for
from
your
the 4th
orders.
Division for a day.
Brat. It
This
goes
made the
without
hearts of
saying that
everyone
you're
in
the
the
first
headquarters
person I've
heavy.
seen in all these
According
years
to the
who
rules,
dares to say such
every
words.
division had to
Don't
report
worry.
the situation
We'll give
to
you
the
some special
headquarters every
treatment in a
day.
bit.
No
You
accidents
actually
were
dared
allowed
to say
happen.
such words to us?
However,
You
there
really
had
don't
been
know
no
news
news
from
from
death.
the 4th Division
Brat,
for a day.
kneel on the
There was
ground
only
and break
one
your own
possibility
arms.
for this.
Cripple your own
and that
martial
was that
arts.
something had
And they'll
happened to
leave
the
you an
4th
intact
Division.
corpse.
Gather the
Otherwise,
5th and 3rd
they'll make sure
divisions.
you die without
Hurry
a
and
burial
check on the
ground.
4th Division. The group of people
Soon,
roared
the 3rd and
furiously,
5th divisions
and the
received
ferocious
orders
man at the
and
front
moved
had a
quickly.
sinister expression.
They did not dare to
However,
delay the
Lin
orders from the
Xian just stood there
headquarters.
with his hands
Hence,
clasped behind
they
his
rushed
back,
to the 4th Division
a
as
disdainful
fast as
smile
they
on
could.
his face.
There were more
Although
than
he didn't
600
say
people
anything,
in the 2
that
divisions.
disdainful
They
smile
were all
caused the Black
elites.
Dragon
There
cult's
were
people
two
to go
7th-rank
crazy.
supremacies
In the
the
past
lead.
year, one of
They
them
had
was a
seen all
woman in
kinds of
black,
fearful gazes.
while the other was a
When had they
red-robed
ever
old
been
man.
mocked like this?
The two of them
Therefore,
led the
those
branch's
people
martial
couldn't stand it at all.
practitioners.
To
In
look
the
at
next
the
moment,
32-story
the burly
pavilion
man
in
at
front
the
of
front
them
roared
and frowned.
furiously and
The
charged
surrounding
toward
array
Lin
is
was not damaged.
Although he was
There
huge,
are no signs
he
of
arrived
fighting
in
either.
front of Lin
Did
Xian
no one
in an
come?
instant. Although there are
Boom.
no signs of
With
fighting,
a single punch,
the scene
even
is
the
very
void
strange.
exploded.
There
The
is not a
terrifying
single
power
disciple
was like
here.
a ferocious
The
beast
two of them quickly
conversed.
rushed toward Lin
Their
Xian.
expressions became
Oh
even
no,
gloomier.
retreat. Go in and
The
take a
Alchemy
look.
Guild's president
the leader of
and
the
the third
surrounding
division,
elders,
the woman
all
in
had
black,
a drastic change
said
in
coldly
expression
as she pointed
as they
at a burly
frantically
man
retreated.
beside her.
The
Immediately,
alchemists around
a
them
set of
even closed
spiritual
their
power
eyes,
armor formed on
unable
the
to
burly
bear to
man's
watch
body.
any longer.
Then he quickly
Even
walked
DK's
forward.
scalp went numb.
He took a deep
That
breath.
was because his
He held a
opponent's
long
power was
saber
too
in one
terrifying.
hand.
He couldn't open the
withstand
door
it
in
at all.
front of him with the
Although
other.
he had seen Lin
Creaked.
Xian's power,
The heavy metal
he
door
didn't
was
think
pushed
that Lin
open,
Xian could
revealing
withstand
the
that
situation
punch.
inside.
It was still quiet inside. There was no one inside. Reporting, there is no one. The burly man quickly ran back. The woman in black nodded. However, her expression changed drastically in the next moment. She smelled a faint smell of blood coming from the front. Not good. The black-robed woman's heart skipped a beat. She quickly led the warriors behind her and rushed forward. By the side, the red-robed old man also moved and followed. The two parties quickly scouted and finally arrived at the 23rd floor. When they saw the ground full of corpses and minced meat, they were all stunned. Some of them couldn't even stand it and started vomiting. How was this the 4th Division? This was hell on earth. What shocked them even more was that all the tables, chairs, and furnishings around them were all neat and tidy. There wasn't even a trace of a knife mark. This time, there was no fierce battle at all. It was a one-sided massacre. Only an instant kill could produce such a result. A peerless expert had appeared and destroyed the 4th Division. The black-clothed woman and the red-robed old man looked at each other and saw the shock in each other's eyes. This time around, they were here to patrol under orders. But now that a peerless powerhouse had appeared, it was not a good thing for them. That was because the other party was too powerful. They were actually able to slaughter the 4th Division. If they were to fight against them, they would most likely be doomed. However, if they couldn't complete the mission given to them by their superiors, it would be worse than death. In the next moment, the black-clothed woman took a deep breath and said coldly, "Everyone listen to my orders. With the pavilion as the center, search in all directions. Don't miss any place. If you find anything suspicious, report it immediately. Focus on the Sword Pool Mansion." The red-robed old man also gave the order to search. Then close to 600 Black Dragon sect disciples quickly spread out to search. "I hope that the peerless powerhouse has already left." The red-robed old man's face was very ugly. He was only from the 5th Division, and his strength was slightly weaker than the 4th Division. He didn't want to meet that mysterious peerless powerhouse. However, things didn't go as he wished. Just as the red-robed old man and the black-clothed woman were waiting anxiously, a warrior quickly came to report. "Sir, we found something strange near the Sword Pool Mansion. Let's go." The two of them didn't dare to delay, and quickly moved out. Chapter
Soon they
1329,
arrived near the
Sword Pool
Bam.
Mansion. In the next
What's
moment,
wrong?
the terrifying
looked
fist
ahead and
landed on
quickly
Lin
sensed,
Xian's body
but
with
they
an
didn't find
earth-shattering
anything.
sound. The
Sir,
entire
it's
valley
useless to
trembled
just
as
sense
countless
time.
boulders
This
fell
was
from the
discovered
mountain
by our people
What?
by accident.
That's impossible.
With that, he slashed
However,
forward with his
just
saber.
as everyone was
in
in
the next
despair,
moment,
the ferocious man
screen
appeared
appeared
in the
them
void in
suddenly
front of
screamed,
them,
as
and
if he
blocked
had
the saber
encountered
light.
something terrifying.
What?
There's a
Everyone's
defensive
heart skipped a
formation.
beat as they
Seeing
opened
this,
their eyes
the
and looked ahead.
black-clothed woman,
Then
and
the
they were all
red-robed old
stunned.
man were shocked.
He was fine.
They
He was
knew that
actually
there was
fine.
a formation
That
set up around
ferocious
them.
punch landed
But
on
the
Lin Xian's
formation that
body.
appeared in the
But
sky
nothing
was
happened to
definitely
him.
not set
Even
up by
Lin
the Black
Xian's
Dragons
clothes
did
did
not change.
They couldn't be
What was
wrong
going
about
on?
that.
Everyone
other
was
words,
dumbfounded.
Someone had
Even
set up
the
a
8th
formation
second level
near the Sword
supremacies
Pool
behind
Mansion
him were
without them knowing.
dumbfounded. Thinking
You,
about the destruction of the 4th
ferocious
Division,
man was even more
the two of them
shocked.
quickly
He was
realized
very
that the other
confident in his
party
punch,
was
as
definitely
even a martial
targeting the
artist
Sword
of the
Pool
same
Mansion.
level
Would
What
not
should
be
we
able
do?
to withstand
3rd
it.
Division Master.
However, nothing
Should we
happened to
report
Lin
to the
Xian.
Hall Master
Even a
immediately?
4th or 5th
The
heavenly
heavenly
layer
old man asked
venerable would not
quickly.
be able to do this. Report
Who
to the Hall
exactly was
Master.
Lin
Xian.
Have you found
How
out
could
what
he have
it
such
is?
means?
Is there anyone
The ferocious
inside?
man could
What
not
kind of
understand.
formation is this?
However, in
What
the
does it
next
do?
moment he
The
screamed in
black-clothed
agony.
woman snorted
That was
coldly.
because Lin Xian had
5th Division
stretched out his
Master.
palm.
I know
and
you're
grabbed
afraid
his
of death,
fist before
but if
pulling
you
it
can't complete
forcefully.
the mission,
Crack. I'm afraid
Crack.
your outcome will be
The
worse
arm that
than
had
death.
landed on Lin
Hearing
Xian's
this,
body,
the
was
red-robed
immediately
old man's
torn off.
body trembled.
Blood flowed
and
out
then
as
he
white
said
bones and
dejectedly,
flesh were exposed.
"All right, I understand."
The ferocious
He'll
man
gather
did not
people
expect
to
that at all.
investigate the formation
He was in
in
so
front.
much pain that his
This
entire body
formation
was
was naturally
twisted.
set up by the
Kid, he'll
dark
kill
red
you.
divine dragon.
He had never suffered
this
such
moment,
a serious
the
injury
dark red
before.
divine dragon.
Hence,
He was
Moro
like a mad
Qingqing
beast
and the
as
rest
he
also
punched
saw
Lin
the
Xian with
situation
his other
outside
fist.
from the formation.
However,
They didn't
Lin
expect
Xian's
that in
expression
just
was
a day,
cold as he raised
the
his
other
palm
party would find
and
them.
gently pressed
This
it
black
against
dragon
the ferocious
speed was
man's
quite
head.
fast.
Boom!
The
The ferocious
ferocious also
man's head
surprised
turned into a bloody
because
mist
from the
in an
other
instant.
parties fighting
It
strength
was a
and
real
battle
bloody
experience,
mist,
as not
it
even
was
a bit
indeed
of flesh
complete
was
mess.
left behind.
Plop! The headless body fell to the ground as blood flowed out, and dyed the
Chapter
entire ground red.
1339.
On the other
The three
hand,
assassins were
Lin
all
Xian's
knights
body
heaven
was
venerable,
spotless,
as if
with
he
their
was an
secret
immortal
assassination
that had descended
techniques.
to the mortal
They
world.
could even assassinate
What?
peak knights
He's
heaven
dead.
existences.
Everyone widened
They
their
could be
eyes
said
in
to be
disbelief.
incomparably powerful.
That was a third heaven
At this
honorable
moment,
realm expert.
dealing with the people
a supreme
outside was
expert in
simply
their
a
eyes.
piece of cake.
However,
He had been
these
killed
three
so
assassins
easily
were probably
that he
used
did not
to
even have the
assassination
chance
all
to fight
year
back.
round.
For a
Even when
moment,
facing the ants
everyone looked
outside,
at Lin
they
Xian.
did not
their
reveal
minds blank.
themselves.
They couldn't
Instead,
imagine
they
what
hid in
kind
the
of
void and
strength was needed
assassinated.
to accomplish
Outside,
such a
the
feat.
black-clothed
The elders
woman
of the alchemy
and the
guild
red-robed
were
old
even
man
more
quickly
shocked.
ordered their
It
subordinates
was no wonder
to
that
gather
the other
again
party did
and
not run
prepare
away
to study the
and
formation
even had
ahead.
a look of disdain on his face.
The formation ahead
it turned
is very
out that
mysterious.
a third heavenly layer
It might be
venerable
where the
realm
enemy
expert
is hiding.
could not even
So
withstand
later
a
you
single
must.
blow from him.
The black-clothed
The
woman
second
quickly
sky
ordered.
venerables felt
However,
their scalps go
she had
numb.
only finished
They knew that
speaking
the
when her
young
neck
man in
was
front of
suddenly
them was
pierced.
definitely a
Terrifying
super
blood
expert.
sprayed all
He
over the
wasn't
ground,
someone they could contend
and her
against.
head fell to the ground.
Retreat.
Buzz.
Retreat quickly.
This scene stunned
Quickly
everyone.
report to the hall
They did
master
not expect
that
the
a
third
super
division
expert
master
has
to
appeared
die just
in the
like
Heavenly
that.
Mountain Empire.
They did not even see who
in
had
the next
attacked
moment.
clearly.
The eight
The
of them
red-robed
looked at
old
each
man
other
at the side
and
was
quickly
so
soared
frightened
into the sky
that he wet his pants.
flying in 8
He was
different
originally
directions.
very timid and very
Oh no,
afraid.
we can't let them escape.
The scene just now had
the
scared
alchemy
him
guild's
out of his
hall
wits.
master,
And
the
the
other
other
division masters
head
head
suddenly
suddenly flew
If
and
they
fell
let them
to the
escape,
ground.
they
The
would
blood that
definitely
spurted
bring
out
even more
sprayed all over his
cultivators.
face.
At that time,
Screams, horror,
the
shock.
Heavenly Mountain
All
Empire
kinds
would
of
be
emotions
finished.
filled the red-robed
However,
old man's
as Lin
mind.
Xian looked at
He
the
could not
fleeing
imagine
figures,
who
the
could kill
disdain
the
on
third
his face
division
grew.
master in an
He
instant.
raised his arm
After
and
all,
shot a sword
the
light
third
into the
division
sky.
master was an
Immediately,
extremely powerful
the sword
seventh
light
heaven
turned into
venerables.
8 shooting
He was
stars
also
that
very
shot toward
famous
the 8
in the
fleeing
nether
people.
hall. At this moment, he had died
in the next
inexplicably
moment,
just like
the
that.
8 sword lights
He did not
pierced
even
through
know
the
who the
8
killer
second
was.
heaven honorables.
Where was it?
And nailed
How did
their
it
corpses
happen?
to the ground.
He did not know at
in
all.
an instant.
However,
8 second heaven
the red-robed
honorables
old
had
man
been
did
killed.
not need to know
In Pill
because
Valley,
in
the
the
alchemist
alchemist
gulped.
his head also flew.
This was too
Blood
heaven-defying.
sprayed into the sky,
Killing venerables
Soon he
with the
lost
raise of his
consciousness.
hand
The
was something
600
they did
black
not
dragon
even dare
school's
to dream
disciples
of.
at the front
Many
were
of
all
them were
stunned.
shocked.
They
because
didn't even
many of
dare
them
to
had
imagine
seen
this
Lin
scene
Xian before.
Their two leaders
At that
had
time,
actually died
he was
suddenly
still a
during
youth
the
who was
assignment
inferior
of
to
tasks.
them.
However,
Moreover,
in just
they
4
had
or
been
5
killed in
years,
one move.
he had already
Even the
grown
2
to such a
division
terrifying
masters
level.
did not know how they
Sir
had
Lin,
died.
let's leave
let
quickly.
alone these people.
This big man
However,
is a
these
deacon of the
people were not
Ravengale Hall.
stupid.
There
Someone
are many
who could
experts
silently
around.
kill a 7th
If we
heaven
don't leave
venerables
quickly,
was
it will
definitely
be very
an extremely
troublesome if we are
terrifying
surrounded.
killer.
There's
The
a peerless
alchemy
killer
guild's
nearby.
hall master said
Hurry up
quickly.
and run.
The others
In
nodded
an
in
instant,
agreement.
the 600
This was
black
the best
dragon sect
opportunity for
disciples
them to
ran in all
escape.
directions.
However,
like
Lin
locusts
Xian
in
shook his
autumn,
head
they covered
slightly.
the sky.
No rush.
Up in the sky,
Let's wait
down
here.
on the ground.
When everyone
in all
arrives,
directions,
we
there
will
were
deal
people
with them all
fleeing.
together.
In their opinion,
It will save us from
since the
wasting
other
time
party was
searching
trying to
everywhere.
assassinate them.
What?
There
Sir
shouldn't
Lin,
be too
do
many
you want to
people.
kill everyone?
If they ran
Hearing
in
this,
different directions,
the alchemists' hearts
they would
pounded
definitely
wildly.
be able to escape.
To be honest, they did
as
not
long as one
believe
of them
it.
managed to
However,
escape. What had
they would
happened
be able to
earlier
relay the
deeply
news to the
stimulated them.
headquarters.
Perhaps
They
Lin
had a good
Xian could
idea,
really fight
but they
against
had
the black dragon
underestimated
sect.
the enemy.
Lin
If it
Xian
was an
took out a
ordinary
few recovery
assassin,
pills.
this method
and
would
gave
really
them to the
allow them to
alchemy
escape.
guild's hall master,
But this
and
time
the
it
others.
wouldn't work.
Old man
Because
DK,
the one who had
on the
attacked
other
this
hand,
time was a
led
ninth
some
heaven
alchemists
venerable.
to quickly
The
collect
terror
the
of a
storage
ninth
rings
heaven
of the
venerable
corpses.
was
After
unimaginable
taking
to
the pills,
these people.
The
The
alchemy
3
guild's
ninth
hall
heaven
master
venerables were hidden
and
in
the
the
others
void,
felt the changes
and they
in
were
their
like
bodies
life reapers
and
as they
immediately
attacked
screamed.
mercilessly.
Heavens,
That speed was
what
extremely
miraculous
fast,
pills,
completely
what grade is
toppling
this?
the understanding
Could it
of
be
these
the legendary
people.
divine
Because
pill?
in the next
The
moment,
group of alchemists
over
was
100
very
heads
excited.
flew up and
Lin
blood
Xian
splattered
asked
in all
deep
directions.
voice.
Tell
From
me
an
about the
outsider's
outsider's
point of
here.
view.
These
Hearing
hundreds
this,
of heads
the
flew
alchemy
up at
guild's
the same
Ravengale
time,
hall master
as if
sighed.
100 people had
The ones
attacked
bullying
at the
us
same
are
time.
mainly the Ravengale
However,
Hall
there was
of the
only
Black
one
Dragon
person who
sect.
did it.
They have
This
many
was the speed
venerables,
of a ninth
but we
level
don't have any
venerable.
venerables here.
Thus, in practically
even
the
if we
blink of
want
an
to
eye,
fight back,
those
we don't have the
600 Black
strength to
Dragon
do so.
School's disciples
What
were
about
all
the other
killed.
countries? Are they the same?
The
Lin
ground
Xian
was
asked
littered
again.
with corpses.
They are about the
and
same.
the pungent smell
the Black
of blood
Dragon
permeated
sect
the
has 8
surroundings.
halls.
And they
The figures
basically
of the
occupy
3
the
five-star
entire
assassins
Tian'an
also
region.
appeared.
Only the
And one
Martial
of them,
Alliance,
a
some
middle-aged
hidden
man,
families,
waved
and the
his
young
hand,
geniuses
and
can
a
fight
boundless
against
sea
the
of
Black
flames
Dragon
instantly
sect.
burned these
The
corpses.
others have basically
As
all fallen.
assassins, not
Hearing
only did they have to be
Lin Xian
skilled at
nodded and said
assassination?
again.
But
When
they
those
also had
people
to
come
know how
later,
to clean up the
I will
scene.
kill them.
Only
The
then
rest
would
will
they
be
be
up
able
to you.
to conceal the
After
truth.
all, I
and
can't
not
stay
be
here for
discovered
too
by
long.
others.
Seeing the
Meanwhile,
alchemist's
these 3
disappointed
5-star
faces,
assassins
Lin
had
Xian
also
said,
reached the pinnacle.
"Don't worry.
In an instant,
I will help you improve
all the
your
corpses
strength
on the
to
ground
the venerable
disappeared.
realm.
And so
What?
did the blood.
To the venerable
In fact,
realm?
even
You
the
also
smell
have
of
that
blood had
magical
disappeared
crystal?
from the air.
This time,
It was as
everyone
if
around
everything
was
that had
excited.
just happened had been an
Crystal?
illusion.
What crystal?
And it had never happened.
You mean the crystal
in
that
the
can
next
greatly
instant,
improve a
the
martial
3 of them
artist's
flashed
cultivation?
and returned behind
They were
Luo
too
Bingshan.
excited.
If
Although
the
the Black
contestants
Dragon
really had
School's
that kind of
disciples
stone,
outside had been dealt
they
with,
could instantly
more
become
on
venerables. And the
However,
others still didn't
to their
feel
disappointment,
relaxed. Lin
This
Xian
was
shook
because
his
according
head.
to Lin Xian,
I don't have that
there
kind
were
of
king
stone you're
tears in this
talking
place.
about. If they cause
I have
too
other
much
ways
of a
to help you
commotion
break
and
through
really
to the
attracted
venerable
the
realm.
attention of a
By
king
the way,
tier,
what's the
then
crystal
it would
you
be
mentioned?
troublesome.
Can you
After
tell us
all,
in detail?
no matter how
We
weak
don't know
a
the
king tier
details.
was, they were
we
still
only
a
know
king
that
tier.
this kind of stone
They were
suddenly
existences
appeared more
that
than
had
half
formed
a
a
year
domain.
ago. and
they
it
were
allowed the
fundamentally
people of the
different
Black
from
Dragon
Venerables
sect to
even
greatly
the weakest
improve
king
in a
tier
short
could
period
easily
of
kill a
time.
peak ninth
By the
heaven
way,
venerable.
that stone
So
seems
one
to
could
have
imagine
come
the
from
gap
Wuxia,
between them,
the Alchemy
Ruffian
Guild's
Dragon.
hallmaster said.
How long will it take for this guy to finish absorbing?
Morong Qingqing asked. The dark red dragon said in a deep voice. It's hard to say. Based on yesterday's speed, it should be a month. However, from the looks of it today, it should be able to finish in 10 days. 10 days? That's too long. At that time, I'm afraid it really will attract a king tier. The three of them were worried. But at this moment Lin Xian suddenly said, Don't worry, it won't take that long. You can hear? Morong Qingqing was surprised. Normally, when cultivators cultivated, they would be completely immersed in their cultivation, and they wouldn't be aware of what was happening outside. However, looking at Lin Xian's appearance, it seemed as if he could hear everything they said clearly. How could she know that Lin Xian was cultivating the Heaven's Evolution visualization art? His soul power had been greatly enhanced, and it was difficult for him to find a match below the king tier. With such a powerful soul power, it was very easy for him to multitask. Therefore, Lin Xian could focus on absorbing the frost energy, while paying attention to what was happening outside. It won't take 10 days. I just need to open a hole in the ice wall ahead and rescue my clansmen. Then we can leave. That's right. The dark red dragon slapped his head. This is indeed a good method. Hearing this, Morong Qingqing and Luo Bingshan also let out a sigh of relief. Indeed, it would be much easier to open a hole in the ice wall. In fact, Lin Xian had done the same. From the beginning, he had chosen a place to absorb the frost energy. By now, a fist-sized hole had been created, and the hole was still expanding. A day passed, and the Nether Hall discovered that not only had they lost contact with the 4th Division, but they had also lost contact with the 3rd and 5th Divisions. This caused them to be extremely astonished. They couldn't understand what had happened. It should be known that the strength of a division was extremely great. Not to mention other things, just the number of people they had was incomparably large. If they really encountered a battle, 1 or 2 of them would be able to escape. However, until now, they hadn't received any information at all. It was as if everyone had evaporated into thin air. Chapter 1340. Could it be the Martial Alliance? The headquarters of the Nether Hall was puzzled. Only the Martial Alliance could go against the Black Dragon sect. However, they did not dare to believe it. This was because even the Martial Alliance did not have the power to silently destroy 3 of the Nether Hall's branches. This time, unless it was the top expert in the Martial Alliance. This wasn't good news for him. Such an expert really had come from the Great Black Dragon sect's guardians, the Great Xia's situation would be even worse than the Tianshan Empire. Therefore, they really did not know what had happened to the 3 branches. I have to return to the Great Xia. They could not let this matter go. Lin Xian didn't hesitate, after all, and took out medicinal pills in their territory. Here are 8 medicinal pills. Therefore, they quickly sent the second branch. They should be enough for you to break through to the second branch was powerful. Realm. Its strength was even more terrifying than the 3rd and 4th branches combined. And then leave the Tianshan Not only Empire. That, the leader waiting for them was an 8th level honorable Lin Xian soared into the sky. Level honorables. Countless Black Dragon cult's disciples had gathered in a city very close to Pill Valley. They were extremely powerful. They had long since received even if they were attacked by the Martial Alliance to help Pill Valley, they would not be afraid and oppose the Black Dragon cult. These people flew towards the Sword Pool Mansion. A bald man with a powerful aura was gathering the surrounding disciples 1 meter tall to prepare a counterattack against Pill Valley. Although it was a little small, man was one of the Ravengale Hall's important the situation generals. Was urgent. His cultivation so he did not continue to the 4th heaven stage in the next realm. He stood up and stopped absorbing. The highest cultivation his figure flashed within the Tianshan Empire. Pool Mansion. Beside him was a white-robed youth with an evil divine dragon. Although he was young, and his aura didn't seem to be any weaker than the bald man. The 3 5-star assassins stayed outside to encounter such a situation as soon as I arrived. After entering the Sword Pool Mansion, hasn't been completely filled with emotions as he looked at the familiar surroundings. How about it? Do you need my Divine Pill Hall to take action? Sword Pool Mansion for 5 years. This white-robed youth was from the Divine Wind Hall. The Divine Pill second uncle was the same as the Ravengale Hall. They were also one of the Black Dragon cult's 8 great halls. Luo Bingshan followed Lin Xian respectfully while Morong Qingqing looked around curiously. My Ravengale Hall can handle this matter. As this was Lin Xian's home, I do like to see who has to live to cause trouble in my territory. Was especially concerned. Boom.
The dark red divine dragon also had an arrogant look on its palm descended from the sky.
It was not curious about the
surrounding scenery.
Countless black dragon cult's disciples were blown to bits.
As expected of the legendary ice,
flesh and blood
although those
splattered
people
everywhere,
have been frozen,
and blood sprayed
their life
everywhere.
force has not been
The entire
extinguished.
square turned into
as long
a living
as the
hell.
ice is removed.
What?
These
Seeing
people
this
will
scene,
immediately come
the
back
pupils
to
of
life.
the bald man and the evil-looking
The dark
youth
red
beside
divine
him,
dragon kept
as
nodding
well
its
as
head
his
in
surrounding
amazement.
experts, suddenly
in front
shrank.
of him.
There
This
were
was because
hundreds
they
of
had
figures,
not felt any
all
danger
of
at
them
all.
covered in blue
As for how
frost.
that huge
Lin
palm had
Xian
appeared,
looked at an
they
old
had no
man
idea.
and a middle-aged man.
Damn it, who is
and
it?
his expression
Get
was
out here.
abnormally excited
Seeing
because
so
they
many
were
of
his
his
grandfather
subordinates
and
die at
second
once.
uncle.
The
The others
man
were
roared
also his
madly.
clansmen.
At the side,
Taking a deep
the young
breath,
man with the wicked
Lin Xian
eyebrows
did not
look
hesitate
good either.
And once
Their
again
muscles
absorbed
tensed
the
as
frost
they
energy
quickly
from
scanned
those
their
people.
surroundings,
Compared
trying
to
to
before,
find the enemy.
the absorption
The
this
next
time
moment,
was much easier.
A figure descended
Although
in
there were
front
hundreds
of
of people
them.
frozen.
Who is it?
Each
Could
of
it
them
be
had
that you
very
did it
little
just
ice
now?
power.
The bald
In addition,
man and the evil-looking
Lin Xian
youth
had
looked
already
at the figure
absorbed
in
at
front
once.
of them with
So he
bewilderment.
was more experienced.
Because this was
This
not
time
what they
around,
had expected.
Lin Xian's speed
in their
was even
opinion,
faster.
Only those
Soon,
from the Martial
the frost
Alliance
energy
could go
on the
against
hundreds
the
of
black
people
dragon
in front
river.
of him quickly
Moreover,
dissolved.
the
And
person
the blue
who could do
frost
such a thing
disappeared at a
must
speed
be
visible
super
to the
elder
naked
in
eye.
the Martial
In the
Alliance.
end,
However,
all the frost
the
energy
figure in front of
disappeared,
him was a
and
young
the
man.
hundreds of warriors
In fact,
came back to
he
life.
was even a few
Crack,
years
crack,
younger
crack.
than the evil youth.
Because they had not
Such
moved
a young
for 5
person,
years.
no matter
When
how
these people
talented
moved
he
again,
was,
their
should
bones
only
made
be at the
crackling
spirit
sounds.
transformation realm.
However,
The
or
first
spirit
sentence that
detecting
came out of
realm.
their mouths was,
How could he have such
"Xian or
power?"
run. This figure
Hearing
was
this,
naturally
Lin
Lin
Xian's
Xian.
eyes
He
immediately
glanced at the
moistened.
front and then
He did
said
not
in a deep
expect
voice,
that even though they were
"It
frozen,
seems that you are the
his
so-called
grandfather,
remnants of the
second
Ravengale
uncle,
Hall,
and clansmen were
remnants.
still worried
Kid,
about his
you're courting
safety.
death."
This
The
made him
supremacies
extremely
were
touched.
enraged when they
In
heard
front,
that.
the people
really
from
is
Sword
you.
Leaving
Since
Mansion
that's
were
the
also
case, you
stunned
can all
after
die.
shouting this
Lin
sentence.
Xian's eyes flickered like the god of death. Could
How
it be
dare
that
you?
the frost
How
energy
dare
has been
you?
removed?
You're courting death.
They felt the condition
Lin
of their
Xian's
bodies
words enraged
and
them.
were extremely
When had
surprised.
they ever been looked down
This
upon
was
like
because they
this?
clearly
The bald
remembered
man
that they were
roared
all
furiously.
frozen in the end.
He pulled out the
But now
saber
they
on
could
his
move
back
again
and quickly
It's not a
flashed
dream.
it forward.
It's really not a dream.
Kid, go to hell.
The frost energy
He did
is
not
gone.
care who the young man
Everyone
in front of
shouted
him was.
wildly. Only
Then they
death
looked
awaited
around
him
and
for
were all
daring to
stunned.
say such things.
Because the enemies
The
from
saber
before
gleam
had
flashed
disappeared.
ferociously.
The surroundings
like a
were
ferocious
quiet.
tiger
And
descending
the surrounding
mountain.
buildings were
The
still
surrounding
sealed
martial
by the
artists
frost
cheered
energy.
when the saber
Only
was
they could
slashed
move.
out.
However,
in
in the
opinion,
next moment,
as long
all
as
of
their
them
boss
looked at
slashed
Lin
out
Xian.
with the saber.
Among them,
The
a
arrogant
tall
kid
old
in
man
front of
and a
them would
square-faced
definitely
middle-aged
split in
man
half.
were even more excited.
However, they were
and their
stunned in
bodies
the
were
next
trembling.
moment.
Xianer,
Even the
you're
smiles on
Xianer.
their faces
They were
froze.
too excited.
That was
They
because
did not
that ferocious
expect that
saber
not only
was
would the
actually
frost
caught
in
by
their
the
bodies
other party.
disappear.
Moreover,
But they would also
it was
see
caught by
Lin
the other
Xian the
party
moment
with
they
2
came
fingers. You're
Their
fine.
eyes almost
That's
popped
great.
out when they saw that.
The Lin family
2
members
fingers
cheered.
actually caught their
Eh,
boss full
no,
powered
you've grown
attack.
taller.
How is
And
that
you look
possible?
different too. Too weak.
Old Master
Lin
Lin
Xian shook
and
his head
second
slightly.
Uncle Lin were very
Then he
surprised.
exerted some force
Could
with
it
his
be
fingers.
that a long time has passed?
Immediately, looking at the saber
strange yet
broke into
familiar
2 with a
surroundings,
crack. They were
What?
very puzzled.
It broke.
Grandfather,
The bald
second
man was
uncle
stunned.
Masters,
He could
this
not
is
believe
not the
it.
place to talk.
Not only did the
Follow
other
me
party
out
catch
first.
his attack,
When we reach
but
a
he
safe
also
place,
broke his saber.
he'll tell you in detail.
That was something that he did
Lin
not dare
Xian
to
said,
imagine.
Good.
However,
as
Lin
long as
Xian
you're
was
fine,
not willing to
this
talk
old man is
nonsense with
relieved.
him.
He simply
Old
threw out
Master
a
Lin
punch
was very
and
excited,
directly hit the
and he
bald
grabbed
man's
Lin
chest.
Xian's hand
Immediately,
and did not let go.
The bald man's
Second
ribs
Uncle
broke,
Lin grinned
and
at
a
the side,
transparent round
and the
hole
others
appeared
cheered
in his
excitedly.
chest. Plop.
Soon they saw
The bald
Morong
man's
Qingchen,
corpse knelt on the
Luo
ground,
Bingshan,
his
and the
pupils
dark red
suddenly
divine
dilated.
dragon.
Even
This
until
is-
his death,
Second
he could
Uncle
not
Lin
believe
asked
that
curiously.
someone could kill him
Second
with a
Uncle,
single
they're
punch.
my friends.
That scene
Lin
deeply
Xian
stunned
gave a
everyone
simple
in the hall.
introduction.
One
And
had
then
to
the
know
group
that
of
their
them
boss
walked
was a
out.
4th heaven
Although
martial
Old Master
honor realm
Lin
patriarch,
and the others had
who
a
would
lot
soon
of
break
questions,
through to the 5th
it was
heaven
not the
martial
right time
honor
to
realm.
ask.
He was
They could
extremely
only wait
powerful.
until they had settled
However,
down.
at that
Soon,
moment, moment, the group of people left Single Pool Manor and came outside. You're a demon. Shannon, the remaining supremacies felt their scalps go numb. Asked. Their expressions changed drastically as they retreated.
No, it'll take you out of Xia country.
However,
Lin
Lin
Xian's
said,
body swayed.
Out of Xia country?
Like a ghost.
Why?
He appeared in
Old
front
Master
of everyone
Lin
in an
and
instant.
the others were puzzled.
He quickly attacked.
Isn't it good to live
Every
here?
time, it was a
Second
simple
Uncle
punch.
Lin also asked.
The seemingly
that simple
right.
punch
Our Lin
became
family's
a fatal
foundation
punch in
is
the
in
eyes
Xia
of these
country.
people.
Where can
Every
we go
one
if
of
we
them was
leave?
like a piece of paper.
Lin Xian laughed
Unable
bitterly.
to withstand
He
the
knew that
power
these
of
people
that
had been
punch.
frozen for
Boom,
5
boom, boom,
years.
boom.
And did
The
not know
bodies
what
of
was
those
going on
supremacies
outside.
split open
Therefore,
one by one.
he could only
and were
explain
blasted
simply.
into pieces.
Grandpa's
In
second
an
uncle's
instant,
Xia country
all
is not
18
safe now.
supremacies in the hall
Let's
were
talk
dead.
about it
Only
after
the
we get on the
evil-looking young
spiritual
man
boat.
in white was left.
Then, Lin
The
Xian
evil-looking
turned and
young
said
man
to the
looked
dark
at Lin
red
Xian's
divine
dragon. His
Ruffian
entire
dragon
body trembled
removed the
and his
array.
pants were wet.
Let's leave.
He was so scared
Simple.
that he peed his
Hearing
pants.
that, He
The
could
dark
not
red
believe
divine
that there was
dragon
such a
waved its
terrifying
dragon
person
claws
in the
and
world
removed the array.
who could kill 18
Grandpa,
supremacies
second
in an
uncle,
instant.
stand back.
Every
He'll
single
take
one
over
of them
Sword
was
Pool
killed
Manor
with a
first.
single punch.
What?
The only person who could do this was probably their hall master. Who are you? The evil-looking young man was so scared that his voice
Any
trembled.
one of them could wipe out Xia
Lin
country.
Xian turned around
However,
and asked coldly,
Lin Xian didn't
"Are you
care
also
about
from
them
the
at all.
Ravengale Hall?"
Could it be that he was
No,
even
and
stronger?
not from the Ravengale
Although
Hall.
everyone was
And
bewildered,
from the Divine Pill
they could
Hall.
tell from Lin
The
Xian's
evil-looking
earlier
young man
display
quickly said
that he was indeed
he thought that Lin
incomparably
Xian
powerful
was only targeting
and
the
had exceeded
Ravengale
their
Hall.
understanding.
However, Lin
Thinking
Xian
of
frowned.
this, they all
His eyes
calmed
flashed
down.
with cold,
Xiao
killing
Xian,
intent.
tell me honestly,
Divine Pill Hall?
how strong have you
So
become?
you're also from the Black
Old
Dragon
Master
sect?
Lin asked in a deep
In that
voice.
case, go to hell.
He didn't want Lin Xian to risk his life for them. Don't worry, grandfather. I'm a little stronger than all of them combined. Lin Xian said with a smile. Hearing this, the corners of everyone's mouths twitched. A little stronger than all of them combined. This wasn't a dream, right? At this moment, the group of terrifying warriors in the sky had also arrived above the Sword Pool Mansion. They were the 2nd Division sent by the Nether Hall. After receiving the orders from the headquarters, the 2nd Division didn't hesitate and flew at full speed. Finally, at the last moment, they arrived at the Sword Pool Mansion. However, what shocked them was that a hole had been opened in the Sword Pool Mansion, and the people who were sealed in ice had actually come out. This caused the people of the 2nd Division to be extremely shocked, especially the 2nd Division leader, who was even more shocked. One had to know that back then, their Nether Hall had used countless methods, but in the end, they were unable to break through the ice. Even the protectors of the Black Dragon sect were unable to do anything. But now the ice had actually been broken. Not only that, the people inside weren't dead. Instead, they were all alive. No, this matter was too strange. They had to capture all of them and study them carefully, because as far as the Nether Hall was concerned, the Sword Pool Mansion was definitely hiding a huge secret. They had to unearth this secret so that they could obtain battle merits and be valued by the Black Dragon sect. Thinking of this, the 2nd Division leader of the Nether Hall took a step forward, looked down, and shouted coldly, "I didn't expect you people of the Sword Pool Mansion's Lin family to be able to come back to life. But this is good too. It saves the Nether Hall from taking action. Kneel obediently on the ground and become the slaves of the Nether Hall, and I can spare your lives." The 2nd Division leader clearly wanted to intimidate everyone, so his voice was filled with boundless energy, causing the entire space to tremble. The surrounding mountains collapsed as they couldn't withstand this energy at all. Looking at everything around them, the Lin family members were extremely shocked. What puzzled them was that ever since Lin Xian formed a protective barrier and enveloped them, they didn't feel any energy threat. So now, they could only see the terrifying energy outside, but they couldn't feel it at all. The Lin family members were shocked, but the 2nd Division leader in the sky was even more shocked. He was clearly trying to intimidate everyone. Lin Xian frowned and a cold killing intent flashed in his eyes when he saw the cultivators of the Lin family. So you're also a member of the Black Dragon sect, since he had rescued the Lin family. Then die. The next step was naturally to eliminate the Nether Hall. However, the evil young man's expression changed drastically. Which division do you belong to? He did not expect Lin Xian's voice to attack the entire Black Dragon sect, clearly in all directions. He found it ridiculous, hearing Lin Xian's words. The Black Dragon sect, the 2nd Division leader of the entire Tianan region. Then he laughed arrogantly. However, Kid, he did not have time to laugh at Lin Xian. You even know about our terrifying palm had already reached for him. I'm the 2nd Division leader of the Nether Hall. The evil-looking young man shouted angrily from the 2nd Division shot out a flame and rushed forward. As soon as he finished speaking, the flame was terrifying. The warriors behind him also laughed sinisterly. It was going to burn Lin Xian to ashes. The people below were too weak. There was not even a single young man was proud of. Of course, his cultivation was also at the fourth heaven of Master Lin and the others. He was not weaker than the bald man and the others' cultivation. Not only that, but he also had a strange alchemy fire. Looking at how young the other party was stronger, he did not look like he was forced into a corner. So they did not take it to heart at all. His strength to escape. However, Lin Xian sneered. The evil young man roared. Very well. The flame that he was proud of had no effect on Lin Xian.
In an
I was
instant,
still thinking
Lin
of where to
Xian
grab
grabbed
the young man's neck,
but I didn't
and twisted
expect
it
you
forcefully.
to deliver yourself to me.
No, you can't kill me.
Hearing Lin
The
Xian's
evil
words,
young man shouted
the arrogant
crazily
laughter
and
above
wanted to beg for
disappeared as if
mercy.
someone was choking
However,
him.
his neck was
What did you
broken
say?
halfway through his
You destroyed the
sentence.
3rd, 4th,
Plop.
and 5th
Lin
division?
Xian threw the young
Kid,
man's body
do
aside.
you know the consequences
At that
of
moment,
saying that?
DK,
Believe
the
it or
president
not,
of the Alchemy
it'll kill
Guild,
all of you
and
below
the
with
others
one
had just
palm.
arrived.
The second
They were
division
shocked
leader
when they
stopped
saw the
smiling.
countless
His
venerable
expression
corpses
was
in the hall.
extremely ferocious.
They're all dead. He
Their
naturally
eyes
knew about
almost
the
popped out of their
disappearance of the
sockets.
3rd, 4th,
Those
and
people
5th
who ruled
division.
Tianshan country
According to
were
their
the true
guess,
powerhouses.
it should be the doing
Each
of the
them
martial
could wipe out
alliance's
Tianshan
super
countries.
elders. But they
However,
were all
now
killed
a
at that
20-year-old
moment.
young man
Lin
actually
Xian
said
turned
that he was
around
the
and
one
said
who
to
destroyed
DK
it.
and the others.
This was simply
That's
too
all I can do.
unbelievable.
The rest
Lin
is up
Xian
to
shook
you.
his head.
You're
He could
all
not be
venerables
bothered
now,
to talk to the
and
other
the
party.
strongest person
Then
in
he said to
Tianshan
Luo
country
Bingshan,
has been killed
"Do
by
it.
me.
You
Go
can
ahead.
distribute the resources
Remember,
as you
leave
wish.
the second
Try
division
your best
leader
to
behind.
survive.
I want
Don't
him
fight
alive."
the Black Dragon sect
Lin
head-on.
Xian's words
When
made
I'm
old
done with
Master
this
Lin
Xia,
and the
launch
others
an attack
widened their
on the
eyes
Black
in
Dragon
disbelief.
sect.
As for the
With
people
that,
in the sky,
Lin
they
Xian
started
flew
to
into
sneer.
the sky.
They looked
and
down
quickly
below,
disappeared into
as
the
if they were
horizon.
looking at idiots.
Only a group of
They
people
simply
looked
did
at the
not
sky
believe that the
and
people
could not
below
help but
could contend
exclaim,
against them.
"Whoosh!
What
In
an
the
ignorant
next
brat.
moment,
Lin
He actually
Xian
wants to
returned
challenge
to the
our
spirit
second
boat
division
and quickly steered
the
the
second
spirit
division
boat
master
towards the Xia
sneered
country.
disdainfully.
How is
The
it?
martial artists
Do you know those
behind him
people
were
down
even
there?
more rampant.
Morong
It
Qingqing
seemed
and the
that the
others
group of
asked.
people below were all
Some old
idiots.
friends.
All
But
right,
they were captured
let me
by
make
the
a
Black
move
Dragon
later
sect
and let them
so
know
I'm
how
dealing
powerful
with them.
Grandpa is.
Now, let's go
I'm
to
going
the
to
Xia
break
country
all their bones
immediately
and enslave
there
all the
seems
men.
to be a mutation
As for
there.
the women,
Lin Xian
ha ha
said.
ha ha.
What?
Ignorant worm.
What mutation?
It seems like you've
Morong
been frozen
Qingqing
for too
and the
long,
others were confused.
so you don't know how powerful
It's
we
said
are.
that there's a kind of
The
crystal
cultivators
that
of
can
the
increase
second
a warrior's
branch
strength
sneered
instantly
and prepared to attack.
That's how the venerables
They wanted
of the
to
Black
teach these
Dragon
people a
sect
lesson
appeared and
They're
show them
such a
how
magical
powerful
thing
they
in the
were.
world.
However,
Morong Qingqing
Luo
was
Bingshan
surprised.
bowed respectfully.
Luo Bingshan was
Yes,
also moved.
master. The
Then
dark
she
red
moved
divine
her body
dragon
and held
quickly
his
rose
chin
into
and
the
thought
air.
carefully.
Old Master Lin
It's not that there
and the
aren't
aren't
things
things
that
that
can
can instantly increase a
Xiao
warrior's
Xian,
cultivation.
can a little girl like her do
but
it?
they're all extremely
harm him.
precious.
Don't
But
worry.
according to
The
what you
trouble will
said,
be solved
countless
soon,
warriors
and
of the
we can
Black
leave this
Dragon
place.
sect have benefited.
Lin Xian smiled.
That's impossible.
Above them,
If there
the
are so many
cultivators
things
of the
that can
second
increase a
division of the
warrior's
Nether Hall laughed
cultivation
wildly,
then why
when
are
they
we
saw
still
Luo
cultivating?
Bingshan flying
The dark
towards
red
them.
divine dragon
Ha
was
ha ha.
very confused
Him dying of laughter.
He thought for a long
Do you think
time
he can kill us
but
by
still
sending
couldn't
a little
figure
girl
it
out?
out.
How
Lin
naive.
Xian also took
This
a deep
little girl
breath.
has a good figure.
Don't think about
but
it.
she's wearing a
You'll
mask
know when
on her
we reach
face.
the Xia.
I wonder
The
what she looks
incident
like.
in Tianshan country
However,
happened so quickly
I've decided that I
the
must
Black
catch her
Dragon
later.
sect
Didn't
didn't
notice
know
it
how
at all.
powerful I am.
Moreover,
Those people
Tianshan
laughed
country was
sinisterly
just an
and
ordinary
did not
country.
take it to heart. The
There were
second
thousands
division
of
master
countries
crossed
like
his
it in the
arms
Tiannan
and looked
region,
like he was
so
watching
it
a
wasn't
show
worth paying attention to.
In other words,
In his
they
opinion,
didn't know about the
other
arrival
party
of
was
Lin
just a
Xian
weak little
and the
girl.
others.
He did
The
not
Xia
need to
wasn't
do
too
anything
far
at
away
all.
from the Tianshan
Just one of his
country.
subordinates
With
would
Lin
be enough
Xian
to
and the
subdue
other
her.
speed,
Luo
they could reach
Bingshan
it in
wore
a
a
day.
golden mask
As they got
and looked
closer
like a
and
killing
closer to
god.
the Xia,
Her cold
Lin
gaze
Xian
swept
also
across the
became
crowd.
nervous.
Then
He
she
was
said
afraid
coldly,
that something would happen
"You dare
to his
to go
family.
against my master?"
So he was extremely
Only death
nervous.
awaits you. Morong
As soon
Qingqing
as she
comforted
finished
him
speaking,
from the side.
Luo Bingshan
The dark
disappeared.
red divine
In
dragon
the
was
next moment,
excited and couldn't
she
wait to
reappeared
run to
behind
the
the
Xia
crowd.
immediately.
Her slender hand
He really wanted
withdrew
to
her
know
long
what could be
saber
so magical
and slowly
that it could
inserted it into
instantly
the
increase
scabbard.
a warrior's
Clang.
cultivation.
Poof. The Xia
Poof.
was located
In
in
the
a
sky,
very remote
500
location in
heads
the
flew up,
Tiannan region,
and blood instantly
It was
dyed the
originally
sky
just
red.
an ordinary
The
small
scene was
country
spectacular.
that wouldn't attract
In just an
anyone's
instant,
attention. The arrogant
However,
second
half a
division
year
had
ago,
been
a
killed.
mysterious crystal
500
appeared
heads
here.
flew up. The
Each
crystal
of
was
their
very
faces
magical,
filled with horror.
It contained a
They did not
mysterious
believe
energy
that someone
that could
could kill
increase a
all of them
warrior's
in an
cultivation
instant.
by a
What
large
was
margin.
even more tragic
At first,
was that they
the
did
crystal
not even
wasn't
know how the
discovered
other
by
party
humans
had done it,
but was
among
swallowed
these
by
500
a demon beast.
people.
The
Suddenly,
5 7th level
that ordinary
supremacies
demon
were
beast naturally
turned
included.
into a powerful
Other than
demon
that,
general in an
only
instant.
the second division
As this
master
happened
was
more
still
and more,
alive.
it
However,
finally attracted
his
the
face
attention
no longer
of the
had
warriors.
the arrogance from before.
However,
the
instead,
black
it was
dragon
replaced
sect had
with
fully
deep horror.
recovered,
And was
shocking.
wantonly
It was too
invading the
shocking.
Tianan region.
He did not dare
At
to
that
believe
time,
the scene
the
before
Xiao
him.
was controlled
One
by
had
the
to
Nether
know
Hall.
that those were 500
Therefore,
of his
this
subordinates.
matter was quickly
Among
discovered
them,
by the Nether
there
Hall,
were 5
and the
7th
entire
level
Black Dragon
supremacies
sect
and
was
dozens of
shocked.
6th level
Later
supremacies.
on, the Xiao
Any
was
one of these
controlled by
people
the
could
upper
wipe out the
echelons of the
entire
Black
Xia
Dragon
country.
sect. However,
most of the
they had all
mysterious
been
crystals
killed at this
fell
moment.
into the hands of
Below,
the Black Dragon
old Master
sect.
Lin,
Of
and
course,
the rest
not
were
all
even
of them.
more shocked.
There were also
They all
experts
widened
and
their eyes in
geniuses from the
disbelief.
Martial Alliance.
The people in the sky
as well
had
as
shocked
those who
them
were
greatly.
lucky enough to
They
obtain
had even
some.
thought that the other
However,
party was a
compared to the
god.
Black Dragon
This was
sect,
because the
the
aura
number
of those
was
people had
pitifully
exceeded
small.
their understanding.
From then on, however,
the Xia
such
became a
powerful
place that the
people
Black
had all
Dragon
been killed
sect
in an
paid great
instant.
attention to.
Moreover,
this was
the
because
one
this
who
was
had done
done
it was a
production
weak
area
little
of the
girl.
mysterious
The Lin
crystal.
family members'
However,
minds went blank.
other than the
They
mysterious
did not dare
crystal,
to believe it.
there was another
Lin
place
Xian
that
nodded
was listed
slightly
as
and
a
said in a
forbidden
deep
area.
voice,
That
"Bring
was
him
the
back."
Sword Pool Mansion.
Immediately,
The Sword Pool
Luo
Mansion was
Bingshan
too
turned
strange.
around and
The
stared
entire
coldly
mansion
at the
was
second
completely
division
wrapped in
master.
ice, and
The
outsiders
second
couldn't
division
enter
master
at all.
trembled.
Even the
It was as if he
supremacies
was
of the
being
Black
stared at
Dragon
by the
sect
Grim
couldn't
Reaper.
break through the
A
ice.
deep sense of fear
Later
rose
on,
from his body.
it was said that
This
the
gaze
Black
was too
Dragon sect's
terrifying.
guardians were
Perhaps
alarmed
even their
and
hall
came to
master could
investigate.
not release
In the
such
end,
a
they didn't
terrifying
break through,
killing intent.
but they gave an order.
He knew that things were
the
not
entire
good.
Sword Pool
The
Mansion
woman in
was
front of
sealed
him
off,
was definitely
and no
a peerless
outsiders were
assassin.
allowed to approach.
She was not someone he
On
could
the
fight
other
against.
side, the moment
Even
the
Lin
entire
Xian
Nether
entered
Hall
the territory
might
of the
not be
Xia,
able to fight
he
against
unleashed
her.
his powerful
At this
soul
moment,
force to
the
investigate
second
the
division
Sword
master
Pool
only
Mansion.
had one thought.
When he sensed the
and
dense
that was
cold
to run.
air,
He
run
heaved
as
as far
far
as
as possible.
possible.
In the
Fortunately,
next moment,
the Sword Pool
he roared
Mansion is
angrily
still the same
and quickly burned
it's
the
wrapped in
spiritual
ice and
energy
hasn't
in his
been
body.
broken. His entire body turned
It
into a
seems
ray
that
of
those
light
people from the
and
Black
fled into the
Dragon
distance.
sect didn't succeed.
However, Luo Bingshan's expression
this
was
also
cold.
made him very puzzled, because the Sword Pool
With a
Mansion
slash
would
of her
definitely
finger,
attract the
a
attention of
resplendent
the Black
saber
Dragon
light quickly
sect.
slashed
And
out,
those supremacies
cut the
would also
second
make a
division
move.
master's body
Now that
into
the Sword
pieces.
Pool Mansion was
The
still
second
wrapped
division
in ice,
master's body
it meant
below
that
the
the
waist
other
fell
party
to the
had
ground.
failed.
Blood
What kind
dyed
of
the
ice
ground
was it
red,
that even the
but the body
supremacies
above the
couldn't
waist
break
was
through?
still alive.
This made Lin
However,
Xian very puzzled.
the pain caused his face to become extremely distorted. Luo Bingshan snorted coldly. Her 5 fingers formed a claw and instantly grabbed the second division master's upper body. Then she brought him to Lin Xian. Chapter 1343. Luo Bingshan snorted coldly. His 5 fingers formed a claw and instantly grabbed the upper half of the second division leader's body, before bringing him to Lin Xian. "Master!" Luo Bingshan shouted respectfully at Lin Xian. "No, don't kill me. Please let me go. I'll tell you everything you want to know." Hearing Luo Bingshan call the young man master, the second division leader panicked. He had never thought that the person he had regarded as an ant would be such a terrifying existence. Therefore, he quickly begged for mercy. Although he had been cut in half, he was not dead. As long as he was alive, he would have a chance to recover. However, Lin Xian would not let the people from the Nether Hall go. Previously, these people had even clamored to kill the Lin family. How could he be merciful? In the next moment, he stretched out his hand and grabbed the second division leader's head. Then he used his soul power to search for information. Although the second division leader was an 8th heaven honorable, his strength had been raised through external means. His true strength could not withstand a single blow. Moreover, Lin Xian's soul power was too strong. Therefore, the second division leader had no chance of resisting. In an instant, Lin Xian obtained the information he wanted. This guy has killed many innocent people. His hands are stained with the blood of countless people. He deserves to die. With a flick of his finger, the nether black flame covered the upper half of the second division leader's body and burned him to ashes. Morong Qingcheng, Luo Bingshan, and the rest were used to it and did not react at all. However, Old Master Lin and the rest of the Lin family were shocked. They did not expect Lin Xian to have such terrifying means. He could kill a divine immortal with a raise of his hand. Lin Xian did not explain. After all, it was more troublesome to explain. It was better to wait until they were on the spiritual boat. In the next moment, he waved his hand and summoned the spiritual boat in the sky. Then he turned to Old Master Lin and the rest and said, "Grandfather, second uncle, family members, let's go." Looking at the huge spiritual boat, Old Master Lin and the rest took a deep breath and quickly boarded the spiritual boat. Lin Xian did not go up immediately. 1332. Instead, he stared at the Sword Pool Mansion behind him. Flew quickly like a bolt of lightning. He stretched out his hand and grabbed across the sky above the state of Great Xia. The gigantic palm grew bigger and bigger, and the others arrived above the Sword Pool Mansion, the entire Sword Pool Manor. Just as they had expected. At this moment, the situation in the state of Great Xia was worse than that in the Tianshan country, and the others stood on the strongest Black Dragon sect warrior and exclaimed as they watched the scene. was only at the fourth mansion was extremely majestic and huge. In the state of Great Xia, even if the top warriors of China venerables could be seen everywhere, they would not be able to completely destroy it. There were fifth heaven, sixth heaven had actually grasped the entire Sword Pool Manor with a single hand. It seemed that the rumors were true. This was too shocking. The mysterious crystal that could increase a warrior's cultivation, because Lin Xian's next move was even more shocking. Otherwise, he raised his hand and would not have sent so many experts to this remote country. The huge mansion was like a city. None of these venerables noticed, but it was actually lifted up by Lin Xian. Not to mention these people, a bottomless pit appeared on the ground, had a formation that concealed its aura. Countless cracks appeared and spread in all directions. Experts might not be able to sense it. Lin Xian kept the Sword Pool Manor into the world within his body below with his soul power. Because the surface of the Sword Pool Manor there was azure sea god ice that was releasing traces of cold air. Could not withstand. It was like the legendary Ice Kingdom. Therefore, there was a defensive array around it within his body to block the cold air. And prevented it from spreading. Lin Xian's body swayed. There were many pavilions and palaces near the Sword Pool Mansion. The spirit boat. Each of them had the flag of the Black Dragon sect. After settling Grandpa Lin and the others down, for guarding the place, Lin Xian began to tell them about what had happened in the past few years. It had a total of 32 floors in the Xia country and was 100 feet tall. It was magnificent. After hearing this, like a heavenly Grandpa Lin standing and the others were extremely emotional. Countless warriors were entering and exiting the Xia pavilion to have undergone such earth-shattering changes in just 5 years. If Lin Xian wanted to know about the Sword Pool dreams, he naturally looked at Lin Xian's experience was even more amazing. With his outstanding soul power, by step, he could clearly hear the conversation in the Tianjin region. On the 23rd floor of the pavilion, shook the entire hunchback old man's eyes were like lightning. And he became the top genius of the aura of a sixth heaven venerable. There was another piece of news that made Grandpa Lin and second Uncle Lin very excited. We're almost done. It was news about Lin Zhan. This time, we've recruited many array masters. Grandpa Lin was very excited. Division master Father is still alive. And he is in with his fire cloud earth fire. After this matter in the Tianjin region is outside the Sword Pool Mansion, I will bring you guys over. A middle-aged man in black light armor quickly reported. Good. After the hunchback Grandpa Lin was very happy. He nodded in satisfaction. He did not expect that not only would the entire Lin clan be revived today, this Sword Pool Manor actually has such strange ice, and even received news about Lin Zhan. I think there must be some kind of rare treasure inside. This was great news for them. Therefore, next, no matter what, we have to break it open. There was no need for them to participate in the rest of the matters. I won't let the treasure escape in front of me. This spirit boat was very big. The hunchback old man revealed an evil smile. There were all kinds of cultivation resources. All of you there was no problem for the Lin clan to stay on it. Also, we must tighten our defenses. Where are we going now? We must not let anything happen Grandpa Lin at the most critical moment. For a while before the warriors under him nodded. Lin Xian looked at the peerless beauty in front of him to leave and said with a smile, when they pushed open the door to the conference hall, you very much. They found an unfamiliar young man. Did he give you any family heirloom? Which branch are you from? What family heirloom? Don't you know the rules? Ching asked. Seeing this young man blocking their way, heirloom from my granddaughter-in-law. In displeasure. Lin Xian smiled. The mysterious young man in front of him had an ice turned red as she lightly punched Lin Xian. His body stood there like a boulder. Lin Xian smiled and did not narrow his eyes. In the main hall, began to talk about the Black Dragon sect members were even more displeased. Go and eliminate the Nether Hall. Suddenly, their pupils them harmed it as if they had discovered something. Then they shrieked. She would always support Lin Xian's decision. The Black Dragon sect. Furthermore, she had seen the Nether Hall's methods. They had definitely discovered the actions of the demonic sect because the young man's clothes did not have the symbol of the Black Dragon sect. From the second division leader's memories, no matter what clothes learned about the Nether sect wore. However, there would be a Black Dragon him was that the Nether Hall's headquarters was in the young man did not have such a symbol. Furthermore, it was in the Black Heaven sect. The young man was definitely not a member of the Black Dragon sect. The mysterious young man in front of them was indeed not a member of the Black Dragon sect that his original sect would be occupied by the Nether Hall. He had used his soul power on the spirit boat to gather information. He waved his hand and increased the speed of the conversation in the conference room. When he found out that these people wanted to attack the Sword Pool Mansion very powerful, and his cultivation had reached the ninth heaven of the honorable realm. No one could attack not only that, he controlled 8 or 9 countries around Xia country. Someone actually said that he was the true overlord here. Therefore, however, he had been outside the conference hall in an instant. Since these people wanted to attack the Sword Pool Mansion tomorrow, he could only destroy them today. However, Chapter 1344, the elders in the hall were extremely displeased for one more day. The young man dared if there's to no news after one day, men, let the first division take action. Take him down. The Netherworld Patriarch interrogate him. Don't worry, we must find out who he is. He'll definitely capture the enemy. The hunchbacked old man shouted in his 30s, said in a deep voice. His voice was filled with endless majesty. He was wearing a black armor. The others also frowned. Look like a god of war. Yes, their place he was the leader of the first division.
and his
there were groups of
cultivation
guards
was at the
outside,
peak of the 8th
so
level
outsiders
honorable
could
realm.
not enter at all.
The netherworld patriarch
However,
nodded
the young
in
man in front
satisfaction.
of them appeared
He
here,
was very satisfied
which made them
with
very
the first
puzzled.
division.
No
However,
need to shout.
at this moment,
Are the guards
the
you mentioned
entire
them?
hall suddenly
Lin
trembled
Xian waved his hand,
as if an earthquake
and more
had
than
occurred.
10 heads fell
Everyone's
to the ground.
expression changed
Every head
when they
was
felt
covered
the
in
impact.
blood. And
This
those
was because
people
it was
even had
impossible.
terrified expressions
Their hall
on their
was
faces.
protected by countless formations.
Seeing this scene,
even a ninth
everyone
level
was
honorable
dumbfounded
realm expert
because the
would
heads
not
on
be
the
able to
ground
shake
belonged
it.
to the law
However,
enforcement
such an
team
incomparably
outside.
sturdy
However,
great hall
at
actually
this
shook.
moment they were all
How could
killed.
they not be shocked?
Moreover,
Netherworld
they did not know when the
ancestor
young
jumped
man
to his
attacked.
feet.
And
Thinking
looked
of
around
this,
in
they broke out
bewilderment.
in cold sweat.
2 rays of
This
light
was
burst
because
out
such
from
a
his green
situation
eyes
would only
and
happen
swept
when the
across the
difference
area
between the
like
two
a long
sides
blade.
was too great.
In the next moment,
Otherwise,
he seemed
if the
to have
two
sensed
sides
something.
attacked, they would
His
definitely
expression
know.
changed
In other
drastically,
words,
and
the
he quickly
mysterious
flew
young
outside
man's
like a
strength was
ghost.
beyond their
When the
expectations.
other people in the hall
He
saw
could
this,
kill their people
they
silently.
followed one after
But
another.
how was that possible?
When they walked out of
Those
the main
law
hall
enforcement
and
team
looked into the
members were all
distance,
venerable ones.
everyone was stunned.
Who could kill so
They
many
saw a young
venerable
man
ones
descending
silently.
from the sky.
In the hall,
The Netherworld
these people
Hall's
did not dare
headquarters
to
had
believe
trembled
it.
under his feet.
However,
This
these
young
people
man
would
was
not
naturally
sit still
Lin
and wait
Xian.
for death.
After he
Many
learned
of
that
them
it was the
started
Black
to
Heaven
send voice
sect,
transmissions
he quickly rushed
to
over.
mobilize people
However,
from their floors.
when he arrived at
The
the Black
middle-aged
Heaven
man in
sect,
black armor
he
from
realized
before
that
strode
the
out and
situation
asked
was
coldly,
worse than he had imagined.
"Who are you?"
This
What's
was
your
because the
purpose here?
Netherworld Hall
Lin Xian did
had
not
completely
answer his
turned
question.
into their headquarters.
Instead, he asked
the people
in
from the
return,
Black Heaven
"Are you
sect
going
were
to
nowhere
attack
to
the
be
Sword
seen.
Pool Mansion
Lin
tomorrow?"
Xian looked at his
Hearing
surroundings
this,
and sighed
everyone
inwardly.
frowned.
The
And
Black
the burly
Heaven
man
sect
in
was
black
only a
armor's
two-star
pupils
sect.
constricted.
It was
He said in
impossible
a
for
sharp
them to
voice,
fight against the
"Are you from the
Netherworld
Sword
Hall.
Pool Mansion?"
Moreover, it was not just the Black Heaven sect. All the sects and forces in the Xia country had been destroyed. Not many people were still alive. The Sword Pool Mansion was able to survive because of the sea god's ice. No one could break through that kind of ice, which was why it was intact. No one was injured and no one died. However, the other sects were not so lucky. The Netherworld Hall was a demonic sect. Their methods were extremely cruel. One could imagine the fate of those people. The old sect was no more. The only thing Lin Xian could do was to kill the people of the Nether Hall and avenge the Black Heaven sect. Just as Xiao Chun was thinking, 2 Nether Hall cultivators flew over and shouted coldly, "Who are you? How dare you trespass into the Nether Hall? Quickly kneel down and accept your death." In the next moment, 2 black spears shot towards Lin Xian like venomous snakes. As expected of the Nether Hall's headquarters, just the guards at the entrance were at the first heaven of the exalted realm. The 2 spears whistled through the air.
"That's right, in from
turning
the Sword
into
Pool
black
Mansion."
afterimages.
Lin
as they
Xian
quickly
said coldly,
pierced towards Lin
"Since
Xian.
you want to attack
But
my
in the next
clansmen,
moment,
then don't
it
blame
stopped
me
10
for
meters
annihilating
away
all
from
of
Lin
you."
Xian.
There
Hearing
seemed
that
to
he
be
was
an
from the
invisible
Sword Pool
force.
Mansion,
He grabbed 2
everyone was
spears.
shocked.
In the
And
next
the
moment,
middle-aged man in
the
black
2
armor
spears
even
quickly
laughed
shattered,
wildly, turning into
That's
molten
really
iron
great.
and
We
dissipating
were
in the
worried that
air.
we didn't know the
Countless
secrets of
cracks
the Sword
appeared
Pool
on the
Mansion.
bodies of the 2
I didn't
black
expect
dragons
you
to
to just
deliver
disciple
yourself to us
that were guarding the
Kid,
entrance.
kneel down
Like
obediently
shattered porcelain,
and tell me all
they
the
exploded
secrets
with
of the
a
Sword
loud
Pool
bang.
Mansion.
Throughout the
I can
entire
leave your corpse
process,
intact. Lin Xian did not
Otherwise,
even make a move.
you and your clansmen
he only
will be
glanced
torn
at the
into
2 of them,
pieces.
and this happened. This scene stunned the surrounding cultivators who wanted to rush over. However, it angered the Netherworld ancestor who was in the main hall. He did not expect that someone would dare to cause trouble in his territory. This was a slap to his face. If news of this spread, and the other halls heard about it, how was he going to survive in the future? In fact, the Netherworld ancestor did not need to say anything. His subordinates had already begun to gather people to counterattack. After all, this was the headquarters of the Nether Hall. There were many powerhouses here. In the blink of an eye, dozens of figures rushed towards Lin Xian. These people were all powerhouses. Most of them were at the 7th heaven of the exalted realm. The weakest among them was at the 6th heaven of the exalted realm. It was indeed shocking to see them attacking together. This was because they would only send out such a lineup to deal with the super elders of the Martial Alliance. But now, the Nether Hall was using them to deal with a 20-year-old young man. However, this outcome was not something that anyone could have imagined. Bang! 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 Dozens of figures rushed over at lightning speed. However, when they were about 10 feet away from Lin Xian, they seemed to have crashed into an iron wall. There was a violent tremor. Was this a defensive wall? It was formless and intangible. Was he a wind-based cultivator? The Netherworld ancestor narrowed his eyes. He had to admit that this young man's strength had exceeded his expectations, to be able to block dozens of Seventh Heaven Venerables in an instant. No wonder he was so bold to attack the headquarters of the Nether Hall. However, in the next moment, he revealed a cruel smile. This was because he knew that the strength of his subordinates was not limited to this. On the side, the black-armored young man from the 1st Division nodded slightly. Looking at this guy's strength, he should be at the 8th heaven of the Venerable Realm. Moreover, his use of the wind-based technique is extremely exquisite. Not bad. This is interesting. A bald old man said indifferently. He was the law enforcement elder of the Nether Hall. However, it's impossible for him to block my law enforcement team with such strength. I think that person can only block one attack. Chapter 1333. He definitely won't be able to block the second attack. We were worried
the upper
that we
echelons
didn't know
of the Nether Hall
looked at the
situation
below. I didn't expect you to deliver yourself to us. However, none of them had
kneel
the
down
intention to
obediently
attack. And tell me
This
all
was
the
because
secrets
in their
of the
opinion,
Sword Pool Mansion.
Lin Xian was
If
not
you do,
worthy
we'll
of
leave
them
your corpse
attacking.
intact. When the dozens
Otherwise,
of Seventh Heaven
you and your
Venerables
clansmen
saw
will be
this,
torn
they
into
frowned.
pieces.
However,
The burly
in the
man
next
in black
moment,
armor had
they
a
quickly
cruel
drew their
smile on his
weapons.
face.
Everyone
Sabers,
else in the
swords,
room
spears.
laughed maniacally.
All the weapons shone
Great.
with the cold light.
They could finally
and were
unravel
imbued
the
with powerful
secrets of the
spiritual
Sword Pool
energy.
Mansion. They stabbed
Moreover,
forward
Lin Xian's
fiercely.
face darkened.
That kid is
Endless
finished.
killing intent
Seeing
emerged
this,
from his body.
The law enforcement
These people
elder
still
revealed a
dared to have
ferocious
designs
expression
on the Sword Pool
However,
Mansion.
in the next
They
moment,
really
his
deserved
smile
to
froze.
die.
This
How
was
dare you
because
have
Lin
designs
Xian
on
in
the
front
Lin
of him had
family.
moved.
You deserve
He
to
looked at the
die.
martial
Lin
artists who
Xian's
were
voice was
charging at
cold.
him from all
He
directions,
stretched out his hand,
and immediately
and a huge
snorted.
suction
force came from his palm. Instantly,
As if
the
countless
middle-aged man in
thunderbolts had
black armor
exploded.
was sucked into
The
his
bodies
hand.
of the dozens of
Then,
Seventh Heaven
terrifying
Venerables
lightning
suddenly
surged out
exploded
and enveloped
and
the
turned
burly
into
man in
piles of
black
blood
armor
mist
that drifted
Crackle.
in the air.
The
Then,
charred body
a
fell to
strong
the
wind
ground.
swept past
The
and
burly
blew away
man in
all the
black
blood
armor
mist had turned into
What?
a dried corpse.
How is this possible?
His entire body
Seeing
was charred
this,
black.
the upper
and the
echelons
lightning
of the
on his
Nether
body
Hall were
kept
all
trembling.
stunned.
He
Dead?
couldn't be more dead.
Dozens of Seventh
Who
Heaven
else dares
Venerables
to have
died in an
designs on the Lin
instant?
family?
What the hell
Lin
is going
Xian's
on?
eyes were cold as he
They
swept
did
his
not
gaze
see the
across
other
the
party
room.
attack at all.
Everyone in the
They
hall was
only heard the
dumbstruck.
other party
It
snort
was dead
coldly.
silent, and the
In the
dozens
hall,
of Nether Hall
the people from the
experts around
Black
them
Dragon
exploded
sect
and
were
died.
completely stunned.
What kind of technique
They didn't
was this?
expect the burly
They had
man
never
in black
heard of it
armor
before.
to be killed
At
so
this
easily
moment,
without any
even
resistance.
the Nether ancestors'
This
face
was beyond their
darkened.
expectations.
His green eyes shone with
The
a
burly
cold
man
light.
in black
He
armor
knew
wasn't
that he had
weak.
underestimated
He was
the
at the fifth
mysterious
heaven
young
of the
man in
honorable
front of
realm,
him,
and
was
after
considered
killing
an
dozens of
expert
Seventh
among
Heaven
them.
Venerables.
However, Lin
Such an
Xian was
expert couldn't
expressionless
even
as he
withstand
strode
one
forward
move
from the young man in front of them. Moreover, what frightened them even more was that the young man said he was from the Sword Pool Mansion. Lin Xian was expressionless. Since when did the Sword Pool Mansion have such an Venerables? With a
Could he
wave
be
of
from
his
the Martial
hand,
Alliance?
he strode forward.
The hearts of the
His
elders
pitch
from the
black
Nether
eyes
Hall
were
beat
incomparably
wildly.
cold.
However,
and they were
they
filled
could
with
with
dense
their
killing
heads.
intent as
The
he
Martial
scanned the four
Alliance was
houses.
the sworn
In the
enemy
next
of the Black
moment,
Dragon sect.
a sharp aura
They had
spread out in
detailed
all
information
directions
about
with the
Lin
young
Xian
experts
as
in the
the
Martial
center.
Alliance.
Immediately,
But they didn't
the
know who the
surrounding
young
Black
man in
Dragon
front of
sect
them was.
disciples were
In
horrified.
that case, and they
There
all
were
trembled.
only two possibilities.
Even the expressions of
The
the
first
Nether
was that
Hall's
the young
higher-ups
man wasn't
changed.
from the Martial
This
Alliance.
killing intent was
The
too
second was
terrifying,
that the young
and they
man
had
was
never
an
felt
expert
it before.
who had appeared
The
recently.
Nether Hall ancestors'
However, no
face
matter
was
which one it
terrifyingly
was,
gloomy.
it wasn't good
and
news
his
to
eyes
them,
emitted a
because
green
they were
light.
now enemies.
With a cold snort,
Who are you?
a
What
powerful
are you trying
force
to do?
erupted from his
The
body
hunchbacked
and
elder in
swept
the
through
hall
the heavens
asked coldly.
coldly.
This
This
was
was
the
already
power
said that
of a
him from
ninth
the
heaven
Lin
family.
Venerables.
As for
And
my
it was
purpose,
incomparably
of course,
terrifying.
it's to destroy
At
the
this
Black
moment,
Dragon sect.
It was like a demon god
Exterminate
was
the Black
above
Dragon
everyone.
sect.
Quickly
When they
blocking
heard
the
this,
killing intent
the elders of
released
the
by
Nether
Lin
Hall
Xian.
sneered with
He
disdain.
had to take action because
Kid,
the other
I
party's
admit
killing
that you're
intent
very
was too
powerful
terrifying,
to be able to kill a
and it
fifth
made him
heavenly
shudder.
layer venerable.
If he did not
I'm
take
afraid
action
none
now,
of us here is a
his
match for you.
subordinates would not
But
be
don't
able
be
to
too
resist
arrogant.
at all.
You don't
In
know
the
the
face of the
strength
Nether
of our
Hall
Black
ancestors'
Dragon
counterattack,
Not to
Lin
mention the
Xian did
sect's
not
guardian
care at all.
elders.
He was
Even
like
if
a
our
god
Hall
of death
Master were
as
here,
he walked on the
he would
mountain
be able
path.
to kill you
This
easily.
was his former sect.
Exactly.
But at
Our
this
Black
moment,
Dragon
all
is the
his old
overlord
friends
of
were
the
gone,
South Horizon
and
region.
only the demonic
An
sect
ignorant
members
brat
were
like
here.
you still dares
Thinking
to
of
clamor
all
here?
this,
You're
Lin
courting
Xian
death.
could not control
Don't
the
think that
killing
just
intent
because
in
your
his
Lin
heart.
family is
All
frozen,
of you must die.
we can't touch
In
you.
the next moment,
With the fire
Lin
cloud and
Xian's
fire,
killing
we
intent
can also
became
break
even
through
more
the ice.
intense. When the
Not
time
only
comes,
that,
but there was
everyone from
also
the
a
sword
blue
pool
aura
Manners
surrounding
Lin
him,
family will die,
releasing a terrifying
Another
chill.
red-robed elder
As soon
shouted
as the aura
coldly,
was released,
his voice was
endless
ferocious,
frost formed around
and his
him,
eyes were
and
filled
it
with
spread
viciousness.
rapidly.
However,
However, it passed.
just as he finished
It
speaking,
seemed to become a
he
world
saw
of
Lin
ice and
Xian
snow.
slash out a sword
Previously,
light, and directly
Lin Xian
split
had
his
absorbed
body in
a lot
half.
of the sea god's
Blood and
ice's chill,
intestines immediately
and now its
flowed
power
out of
was
his
finally
body.
revealed. Those Nether Hall
The
martial
pungent
artists
smell
who
of
were
blood
close
made
to
everyone
him
in
did
the
not
hall
even
want
have
to
time
vomit.
to escape.
I've said it
Before
before.
they were covered
If
by
you
the blue
dare to
frost
threaten me with the
and
sword
then
pool
turned
manner,
into icemen,
there's only one
it was
outcome.
not just on the surface.
Lin Xian's voice
Their
was
internal
cold like a
organs
god
and
of
blood
death.
were all frozen.
Since you dare to
and they
challenge
died in
my
an
bottom
instant.
line, then die.
Wherever Lin Xian
At the end of
passed,
his
he
sentence,
left behind
a
frozen
terrifying
corpses.
killing intent
Go,
soared
we
from
must
his
stop
body.
him. However,
Seeing
at
this
this
bizarre
moment,
scene,
a
the
law
law
enforcement
enforcement
elders
came
on the
from the
began
corridor.
to pound.
Countless
He
black
hurriedly
dragon
ordered
sect
his
subordinates
cultivators
to
rushed
kill this
over
person at
and
all
surrounded
costs.
the entire 23rd
Otherwise,
floor.
the entire
Ha, ha, ha,
Nether
ha.
Hall would have
Kid,
been
so what
sealed
if
and
you're
iced by
strong?
him.
Could
In
it
the
be
next
that you
moment,
can go against
the
the
first,
entire Nether
second,
Hall?
and third enforcement
Seeing the
teams were
surrounding
dispatched.
cultivators rushing
These
over,
people were dressed
the
in
elders
black,
in the
and
hall
their
all
expressions
laughed
were
wildly.
cold.
They
They
were
did
like
not
killing
attack earlier
machines
not
without
because
any
they were
emotions
afraid
at
of
all.
Lin Xian.
They were
But
originally
because
born
they were
to kill,
waiting for
and
reinforcements
their hands
to
were
arrive.
stained with endless
Now
blood.
that everyone in the
At this
pavilion
moment,
had been called
they
over,
were summoned by the
this was an
enforcement elder
extremely
to attack
terrifying
Lin
force
Xian
that
with
could
all their
definitely
might.
kill this
Lin
kid in
Xian's
front of them.
expression was
Of
cold
course,
as he
they
punched
would not
out.
let Lin Xian
Boom.
die so easily.
The bodies of the 10
At the
people
very
at the
least,
front suddenly
they would let him
exploded,
suffer endless
turning
pain.
into a bloody
Kid,
mist.
you're arrogant.
Following
How
this,
dare you kill
under the
someone
effects
from the
of the
Nether
ice
Hall?
energy,
Today
they
is the
turned
day you
into
die.
countless pieces
I
of
won't
ice
let you die.
and fell to the
I'll
ground.
break all the bones
Boom.
in your body.
Another 10
and
people
let you watch as the
exploded
sword pool
and turned
manner
into
is
a bloody
destroyed.
mist.
Then they were
Your
frozen
Lin family
again
will
and fell
become
to
the
the
slaves
ground.
of the Nether Hall.
In next to no time,
Slaves for life.
the first
You'll
enforcement
never
team,
be able to rise
second
again.
enforcement team,
Those people were
and
very
third
arrogant.
enforcement team were
They
all
looked at Lin
annihilated,
Xian,
and they
as
turned
if they
into
were
a
looking
pile
at a
of ice
Madman.
crystals and
Lin
rotten
Xian's
flesh that
expression
fell
was
to the
cold.
ground.
He did
The
not show any
surroundings
fear,
were silent,
because these
only the
people were
whistling
no
of the
different
cold
from
wind
ants
could
in
be
front
heard.
of him.
If
Carrying
it were
with it
not
a
for the
cold
fact
killing
that the Nether
intent.
Hall was
In
too
the blink of an
widespread
eye,
and spread across
the members
several
of the third
countries,
enforcement
he
team
would even
were
want
all
to wipe
killed,
out the entire
turning
Nether
into
Hall.
countless pieces
Since
of
he could
ice
not
that
get
fell
rid of
to
the
the
Nether
ground.
Hall in a short
the people
period
of the Nether
time,
Hall were
he
completely
would not
stunned.
let the people in
As
this
members of
pavilion
the
go.
demonic sect,
How
they
ignorant.
had killed many
Do you
people
think
in
that
the
you
past.
can save your lives
Each
with
of
more
them
people?
had hundreds or
Lin
thousands
Xian's
of
lips
lives
curled
on their
into a
bodies.
disdainful smile.
You're courting death.
However,
Kid, at this
you're
moment,
still so
seeing
stubborn
this
even
scene,
when
their
you're
scalps
about
went
to
numb.
die.
That was
Seeing
because
the
they had
disdainful
never
smile,
seen such a
the
way
elders
of
of the
killing
Nether
people.
Hall were furious.
No matter who it was,
The hunchback
whether it was
elder's
a
face was
seventh
even
level
gloomier,
venerable, or
he
a
waved
spirit
his hand
detecting
and said
realm
to the
martial
warriors
artists
around him,
they were all
"Go
killed
kill
with
him."
a single punch.
As soon as the
There
order
was no
was given,
difference. The
it
8
was
men
as
in
if in
black
the
who
eyes
were
of the
walking
other
at the
party,
front immediately
they were
attacked.
all ants that could
8
not
fists
resist
were
at
thrown
all.
from different
Therefore,
directions.
even
They
though
were
these
like
people had
ferocious
experienced
beasts as they
countless
charged
killings,
towards Lin
their
Xian at
hearts
high
turned
speed.
cold.
These 8
And their
people
bodies
were all
trembled
experts.
at this moment.
They were not
Even the
inferior to the
high-ranking
black-clothed
elders in the
man
man
who
hall
had
were
died
extremely
earlier.
shocked.
If the 8
They
of
had
them
never
attacked,
heard of such a
no one
killing
in the
method
pavilion
before.
could stop them.
If Lin Xian's
Bang, bang,
previous
bang, bang.
actions had shocked
However,
them,
such
the current
terrifying
situation
fists
had
stopped when they were
terrified
3
them.
feet away
Each
from
of the
Lin
3
Xian.
enforcement
They
teams
could
had
not move
50
at all.
people.
And
What?
they were all
How is
7th
this
level
possible?
venerables. Everyone
In
was
total,
shocked.
there were
The 8
150
men were even more
people.
terrified.
It could be said that it was an extremely
They felt an
terrifying
incomparably
force.
terrifying
However,
power on their bodies,
such a powerful team
causing
had
them to
been killed in
completely
an
lose
instant.
the ability to
They could not
resist.
fight back at all.
Crack, crack, crack,
This
crack.
made them unable
In the
to
next
believe
moment,
it.
the 8 of them
Impossible, this was
screamed
impossible.
because their arms were
Even
all
an 8th
chopped
level
off,
venerable could
revealing
not do
eerie
that.
white bones.
Who exactly was
Not
he?
only that,
The
but
enforcement
there was
elder
also
shook his head
terrifying
frantically,
lightning surging
his
out.
eyes filled with
It was
fear.
like a lightning
That
beast
was because
that
he knew
swallowed
the
them
strength of
instantly.
his subordinates
Boom.
the best.
8 charred
Even an
corpses
8th
fell to
level
the ground.
venerable could not
Impossible.
fight against the 3
Seeing
teams
this
he had
scene,
sent out earlier.
the surrounding people
However,
were all stunned.
the other party had
They
done
cried
it.
out in horror.
This made him
in the
unable
blink
to
of an
believe
eye.
it.
The
Could it
expert
be
from
that
the
the other
Black
party
Dragon
was
cult
a
was
9th level
killed without
venerable?
being able to
But
resist
how was that
at all?
possible?
How old was he? He was only 20 years old. There were not many 9th level venerables at such a young age in the Black Dragon sect. Moreover, the Black Dragon sect had used external forces to increase their strength. The other other party was not a member of the Black Dragon sect. So how could he have such a cultivation level? Who was he? Who exactly was he? Was he from the Martial Alliance? Or was he a powerhouse that they did not know about? For a moment, those people were all stunned. However, just as these people were in shock, Lin Xian moved again. His figure flashed, and like a bolt of blue lightning, he charged towards the main hall in front of him. In the next moment, he arrived in front of these people. With a wave of his palm, a terrifying blue palm like a dragon grabbed the enforcement elder's head. Boom! In the next moment, the enforcement elder's head exploded like a watermelon, and the pungent smell of blood instantly filled the air. Even the blood splattered on the faces of the surrounding elders. What? Impossible! These people screamed. They could not believe that the enforcement elder had died in front of them just like that. That was the enforcement elder. He was extremely powerful, and could definitely be ranked in the top 5 in the Netherworld Hall. However, at this moment, he could not fight back at all and had been killed so easily. Demon, you're a demon. Who are you? Who exactly are you? Impossible. How can you be so strong? At this moment, the experts of the Netherworld Hall were terrified and kept screaming. They were usually high and mighty, slaughtering the people of the Xia country and looking down on everyone else. However, they did not expect that one day, they would become lambs waiting to be slaughtered in the eyes of others. At this moment, they finally experienced the fear of the weak. This fear was like a demon that suppressed the pain in their throats and pulled them into the abyss of hell. Who am I? I'm a disciple of the Black Heaven sect, and am here to seek revenge. Lin Xian's voice was cold and filled with endless chill. What? You're a disciple of the Black Heaven sect? That's impossible. How is this possible? Chapter 1334. In the blink of an eye, the 8 Black Dragon sect experts were killed without being able to resist at all. If they had known that the Black Heaven sect had such a powerful disciple, judging from the way Lin Xian killed the burly man in black armor to death, he should have surpassed the 5th heaven. Only by killing him can we live. However, looking at his age, he was only in his 20s. 2 elders quickly burned their spiritual power to obtain great power. It was impossible for him to be any stronger. However, these elders of the Nether Hall heaven of the venerable that if they didn't kill Lin Xian, they wouldn't be able to escape in an instant. Therefore, it was simply impossible. They charged toward However, Lin Xian had done it so easily to die. Are you a 7th heaven of the venerable realm? Even burned all the spiritual power in their bodies and exploded heaven of the venerable realm. Was the elder in green robes on the left held a long saber that was although they were venerable, they were only a branch of the Nether Hall. Lin Xian, so there was no saber light was as cold as moonlight realm among them. Wherever it passed, go and get the entire void was cut in half. Division master. The elder in white robes on the right shouted crazily with a terrified expression. He looked like a god of war. They had to hold him back. His entire body they still had emitted a dazzling golden light. Hall's 3rd Division master in his hand was a 7th heaven angry dragon. Moreover, as it charged the fire cloud, earthly fire. These 2 elders were both at the peak of 8th heaven. He was extremely terrifying. Now that they were burning their spiritual power, time, he would definitely be able to kill this little thief in front of him. Realm cultivator. In the next moment, even a hunchback old man gave orders crazily again. Might not be able to withstand the full power of even if he's a 7th heaven venerable. At this moment, he can't stop so many attacks instantly pierced as far as they knew. However, 7th heaven venerable could not fight against and reached out his left hand to grab the long this was only their understanding. There were black patterns on his palm that looked like demonic martial artists. They emitted a scorching aura that filled the sky. Killing intent. It was the 9 underworld. In the next moment, his eyes turned red. Meanwhile, his right hand body was surrounded by a terrifying killing intent. His fist was covered in a thick blue icy aura as it quickly blasted to the right. Blood sword massacre. A low voice came from his mouth. Was actually grabbing their treasured weapons with his bare hands. The 2 blood behind him surged. Cold light and bloomed in their eyes as their strength instantly enveloped the entire hall. In their opinion, the space Lin Xian was simply too arrogant at the martial artists who were charging at him at the same time. Lin Xian threw a punch. He was doing it with his bare hands. The sea of blood behind him surged. They had to use this rare opportunity to kill a dragon that charged forward. The saber light flashed and soon collided with the palm. In the next moment, covered in black patterns, scream rang out. However, the black dragon cult martial artist's body immediately split apart. The long green saber quickly melted under the blink of an eye and turned into a pool of molten iron. Looking at this scene, this is impossible. Everyone felt their scalps go numb. The green-robed elder screamed, and their expressions were filled with fear. One punch. He could not believe that his strongest attack had been so easily neutralized by Lin Xian. Half of them were not only that. Even his green saber had been melted by Lin Xian. How could it be so terrifying? What kind of move was this? Even a 7th heavenly layer venerable wouldn't be able to do that. With fear in his eyes. The eyes of the Black Dragon Society members were filled with despair as they fled the mysterious youth in front of him. The entire pavilion was sealed off by Lin Xian's blood beyond his understanding. No one could escape. Since the moment these people had set their sights on the Sword Pool Mansion, might not be able to fight against Lin Xian. Lin Xian clenched his fist. The only thing he could do now was to run. Surged. He had to run for his life. Killing sword quickly However, appeared. Just as he turned around, he brandished his long sword and streaks of sword chi swept out in all directions. Black flames jumped wherever and the sword the green-robed elder to ashes. The cultivators were all killed. With a scream, Massacre.
The green-robed
This
elder
was simply a
completely
massacre.
disappeared. Because
At
the
the
same
same
sides
time,
were not
Lin
on the
Xian's
same
right
level
fist
at all.
blasted out.
One had to
With
know
an
that Lin
unparalleled
Xian was an
icy aura.
existence that could
It fiercely
even kill a
collided with the
half-step
long
king.
spear.
Most of these
Bang.
people were fourth
Icy
or
aura
fifth
gushed
heaven
out and
venerables.
emitted a terrifying
The better
chill.
ones were at fifth or
Immediately,
sixth heaven.
the white-robed
two
elder
sides
was
were
frozen
not on the
into an
same
ice
level at
sculpture.
all.
The
It was like a
terrifying
dragon
fist hit the
trampling
ice
ice to
and
death.
shattered it into countless pieces.
In an instant, the two elders who had burned their spiritual energy and attacked with all their might were killed. The entire process seemed to take a long time, but it actually happened in an instant. Therefore, before the people around them could react, the two elders were already dead. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.